That's the new logo?
Yeah. We're not in that business yet, but we're like going toward it, that logo, because I don't know if I should say this on a public. Are we recording?
No, we're not going yet.
I'll say it.
Do you want it? Do you want it?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Just I have a partner and like I'm still friends with him. We're still friends, but it's not working out. Like, and it's not anybody's fault really. Like he has his own business in Fortuna and I have the gym in Eureka. And going into this, we just thought things were going to happen differently. And there was a lot of things both of us didn't factor in, as far as like location is huge. And also like the location next to Planet Fitness, like having Planet Fitness right there. And that's a gym that charges $10 a month for the basic membership and $20 a month for the black card. And they offer everything, all the amenities and like their classes, which are only 30 minutes. And it's just a circuit on equipment.
Classes
yeah, it's not really like you don't learn much. You just use equipment. But that, you know what I mean? We didn't really factor that in. We thought we'd be able to take a lot more of their members, or a lot of people would convert over to ours because of what we offer. And then the rent, dude. The rent for a space that's that big is like $5,700 a month.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like I think we're in like I think altogether it's like 7,000 or 8,000 square feet because we have the front gym, which is the old Humboldt CrossFit. We bought that in September of 2022, and then the back part we built out, which is like another 3,000 square feet. So I think it's like 8,000 square feet.
I didn't realize it was that big. I've seen
huge.
pictures on your Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. So like when you look at it from the front, it looks small. But when you go in, the warehouse goes this way, and then there's a hallway, and it goes back to another 3,000 square foot warehouse. And that's the boxing gym in the back. So we bought the business, and when for a year, I was talking to Will Zerlang, who owned Humboldt CrossFit, about buying this gym, or the business, not the building. And he wanted like $100,000. And I was like, bro, there's no way like anybody's gonna pay that much. Like gyms die all the time. Like it's a really hard business.
To be in.
Yeah. I think honestly, like to be honest, I think restaurants and gyms are the two hardest businesses to keep alive, because you have to have passion for it. You have to have your heart in it. And like I always have, like I've always been like really big on like helping people build confidence and learn self-defense and just whatever it is they're coming there for, like helping them get that. And just for mental health, bro, like if I don't work out, I'm a wreck. Like literally, like I can't function. I have anxiety. Like I'm just like, I need it. Like I need to work out at least 3 times a week. You know what I mean? At the minimum. And so it was just me at first that was trying to buy it, and I was trying to talk him down or like talk about payments or whatever. And he was like set on $100,000. And at the time they had like 170 members, and they were paying for CrossFit, which was like it was $167 a month for a CrossFit membership. And that offered them all the classes.
Because you have to buy into CrossFit. It's
Yeah.
a brand.
Yeah. So he was grandfathered in. Will Zerlang, the old owner, was grandfathered into the old CrossFit price, which was like $2,200 a year.
And so you were looking at this to buy this and keep it a CrossFit gym?
Keep it CrossFit, but also have our personal trainers, open gym, and boxing in the back. Like I wanted to be everything. No other gym was offering that. And like it was a great plan. Like it would have worked really well if the CrossFit people would have stayed. But because they're like a cult and they don't want anybody else around, bro. They don't want to deal with boxers or bodybuilders, or they want their CrossFit gym.
It's like vegans that are jacked but damaged. Like their bodies are all broken up. Like that kind of cult mentality.
Yeah.
If you're a vegan, you got to tell everybody you're a vegan.
You brought up vegans.
But that's what it is. You get into these cults and people just, you buy in wholesale.
I did that. I did the vegan thing with my old coach, Corbin.
Did you really?
Yeah, he was vegan for like 10 years. He lost 10 fights in a row. From when he became vegan, he lost 10 pro fights in a row. And I'm like, bro, you don't think this has anything to do with it? He's like, fuck no. Da, 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 da. I'm like,
might
bro.
Be correlated.
Yeah, it might be. Like, yeah. But anyway, that's another story. But so
you're losing the CrossFit people.
Well, we hadn't even made the deal yet. Like, I went and did I think I did like 2 CrossFit classes with their team, and like I had a blast. They fucking whooped my ass. It was hella hard. I literally was laying on the ground afterwards, like sweating. And like they all finished before me, and I thought I was in good shape, but I wasn't in CrossFit shape. You know what I mean? And that's what Will said. He's like, just come in and get to know everybody. Like, and I'm like, well, when are you gonna tell him? Like, when are you gonna tell him that you're selling and that it's me that's gonna buy it? Like, and he's like, oh, we'll get around to it. Da 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 da. And so, I needed a partner. I couldn't afford $100,000, and I didn't want to go to the bank. I had a decent credit score. I think I was like 720 at the time. But I just didn't want to do that. I wanted a partner because it sounds nice, like having someone to share the workload. You know what I mean?
Burden.
Yeah. And so my bro Nathan Payton, who owns NorCal Barbershop, he owns the one in Henderson Center and the one on 5th Street. Before he built the one on 5th Street, him and I were talking about going in on it. So he came to a class with me, and he was like down for it, but I think the price was just too much. I forgot what else there was, but he wasn't ready to pull the trigger. And so I was honestly kind of desperate to do the deal, and this is another thing too. In business, never rush anything. Don't rush. You'll always regret it in the end. Like, yes, take risks, but make sure they're calculated. And the reason why I wanted to move in there so bad is that our previous landlord on Harrison, California, I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to get defamation or whatever, but there were 2 landlords. One was super cool, good dude, and the other guy was a dirtbag. He was an asshole, and I had put $18,500 into that building to renovate it. And the deal was forever $500 a month for rent for a 3,000 square foot area. As soon as I finished the repairs, they raised the rent to $1,500. And
I'm guessing you just ate that cost.
I ate that cost for a few months, and then a client of ours him and his son had been with us for years, probably 4 plus years, sends me an article from 2012 saying that one of the landlords was accused of rape in 2012 from Time Standard, and like multiple charges. And so I'm on vacation. We went to Richardson's Grove, me, my oldest daughter, my wife Jamila, and she was pregnant with my son Elam at the time, I believe. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't want to deal with this right now. Like, and like all these things are running through my head. Like, we have kids there, like, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff. And he's been training at the gym as well. And so I told myself when I got home, I was going to confront him. I was going to text him and send him the article, say, hey bro, like, what's this about? Like, parents are concerned about this. And the parent that showed it to me was like, bro, I'm going to pull my son out and we're going to stop going to the gym. And so when I confronted him, as soon as I sent it to him, I was like, I can't have you there anymore, bro, because of this. Like, you know, it looks bad on us, da da da. And he was like, you have 60 days to get out. And I'm like, you can't do that, bro. You can't just break the lease and evict me because I don't want you there. Like, technically, you have to give me a 30 days notice before you step foot in the door. Like, you can't just evict me because I don't want you in the facility. And he's like, fucking watch me. I'll sue you. I sued so-and-so for 10 grand for defamation about this shit and blah, blah, blah. Because in the article, it says that he was accused of these things and then he evaded I think it was Rio Dela Scotia police for like 2 or 3 weeks. And he had a commit date and he didn't commit to the commit date. And he told the person, whoever the interviewer was or police that called him, that he was going to run to Mexico. And so he was trying to run, bro. Like, he wasn't, you know what I mean? And like, it doesn't matter if he was proven guilty or not. It's just that I don't want that look on our gym.
So he never went to court.
No, he ended up turning himself in later on. But when he turned himself in when they went to court, the witness didn't show up and they dropped the charges. So I have theories about that, bro. Like, I watch old mob movies and shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean? You put 2 and 2 together. Like, either he paid the person off or it wasn't true. It could have not been true. You know what I'm saying? But the way he handled it showed me that he was probably guilty.
Yeah, if you're saying you're going to run to Mexico, I don't know that an innocent person does that.
Yeah. Or he could have just been like, hey, bro, like, the charges were dropped. I didn't do it. Like, you know me. But he didn't do that. He was like, you have 60 days to get the fuck out. And when he reacted like that, I was like, okay, bro. Like, and then, so we're going back and forth on texts for probably weeks. And I'm talking to the other landlord who's super chill, good Christian dude. I love the guy still to this day. Like, he's a good dude. And he's trying to deal with him. He was like, bro, I can't even deal with my partner. Like, he's so unreasonable. And they ended up splitting up and selling the building through all this stuff, right? But So the dude calls me, the guy who had the article, and he's like, Humboldt CrossFit wants to buy the location or rent the location. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, Will owns his location. Why would he want to move into something half the size? And you know what I mean? And so
Does
I
make
called
sense.
Will. I had Will's number and I called Will and he's like, fuck no, I'm trying to sell my gym to you. So that's how it all started. Like having a shitty landlord and like all that drama ended up leading me to buying Humboldt CrossFit from Will. So it all worked out in the end, but as far as that goes, but so after my barber Nate and I went and looked at it, he didn't want to do the deal. I finally, and I really wanted to get out of the location I was in on Harrison, California. I called Caleb King, who owns Bodyworks in Fortuna, who's been a friend of mine for like 5 years. Him and Matt have both been my friend, and they split up years ago. He bought Matt out, and I was like, "Hey, bro, like, we have an opportunity to buy this location. You've been talking about expanding. We talked about partnering before, and I'm like, what do you think about this?" And he's like, "I just got $30K in inheritance because his mom passed away." I think a drunk driver hit her or something like that a few years back. And so he had just got $30K from that, like a settlement. And he's like, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I had a 2006 350Z that I sold back to my buddy who I bought it from. And then I had a 2017 Chevy Silverado with like 20,000 miles on it. And I had been making payments on it. I owed like 12 grand left on it. So I paid 18 on it so far. And, sold both those, paid off some credit cards that I owed so my credit score would go up. I think I got like one loan, and somehow I ended up with like 10 grand, like after paying all the credit cards off and like selling both cars. And I'm like, bro, all I got is 10 grand. You know what I mean? And so we talked to Will, and at that point he had told his members he was going to sell, and he didn't say who to. And so I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And so the membership went from like I think it was like, I don't remember if it was over 200 people, but it went from like 160 to like 70 people.
Oh, just dropped off a
Just
cliff.
dropped. Yeah. And
Did they think you were going to change it and it wasn't going to be a CrossFit gym anymore?
no, they didn't know who was going to buy. I think they had they saw me in class and they're like, what's Tyler Parr doing here or whatever. And people know that like when I have my eye on something, like I'm going to go get it. Like 2 years before any of this happened, I was looking at a Subaru next door in one of these mechanic garages with my wife, and we were walking on this back to our car, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy that gym one day. And 2 years later, I got the gym. You know what I mean? Like that's how I am. I'm very linear, and I don't believe in like not getting what you work for. Like I know if I work hard for something and I put good intention behind it, it's gonna happen eventually. You know what I mean? So Will drop the price from 100,000 to 65,000 with 70 members. Like that was the deal. It was supposed to have 70 members with the gym when we bought it. And so I believe we brought him 30 or 40K. It's been 2 years. I can't remember. But like I put in 10, Caleb put in 30. And then I had all my equipment. I had like 75K in equipment, 130 members from my gym. And I want to say 7 trainers and 1 manager that we brought over from Alpha Fitness Clubs. Because my old business was Alpha Fitness Clubs for like 5 years. And then we put the Bodyworks name on top of Alpha. So it was Bodyworks, Alpha Annex. And crazy little caveat, backtrack a little bit. Like maybe a year before all this, I had a dream that we made Bodyworks Alpha Annex. And I called Caleb. I'm like, bro, I had a dream that we made a gym together. And he's like, that's crazy, bro. We should do it. Like a year before any of this happened. And it was that name. It was Bodyworks Alpha Annex. So we put the down payment. I think it was like 30 or 40K, signed all the paperwork, signed the lease. And then I made a post on Facebook saying, all Humboldt CrossFit members get their first 30 days free at Bodyworks Alpha Annex, you know? And when I made that post, Will hits me up and he's like, hey, bro, can you take that down? And I'm like, why? He's like, I haven't told anybody yet. And I'm like, dog, we're like in it. Like we're supposed to move in on the 8th. This is like the 10th of September or something that we signed everything and gave him the money. Excuse me. And we're supposed to move in on the 18th. And I'm like, bro, they don't know. They're probably going to be pissed. Like, they're probably not going to stay. And he's like, no, I'll talk to them. We're going to have an event. Because they were seeing one of their coaches off, Chris. I think her name was Chris. She was going to move back to the Bay Area with her girlfriend or wife or whatever. And I'm like, whatever, Will handle it. Like, I trust him. He'll handle it. He'll make it work smooth. And then they have their little event and they all go start their own gym, Lost Coast CrossFit on 7th Street. And it's hard to get a building and to get the equipment and whatever. So I think this was happening. Like, I think this was all, they were planning this. They knew Will was selling. They were planning on going to open their own gym. And I don't blame them at all, like, for going to want to go start their own CrossFit gym. But Will could have brokered it better to where we kept the members. Like, he could have, you know what I'm saying? And we could have done better to, like, stay on him about it and cultivate a relationship with them. But when you go from getting $160 a month for 70 members, even 70 members, like, what's the math on that? That's like,
decent chunk.
Yeah, that'll pay the rent, you know what I mean? That'll pay the bills, to only having, and then when we moved from Harrison, California to Humboldt CrossFit, we raised the membership price to $65 a month instead of $30 a month, because we were offering all the classes for free, 24/7 access. We're the only 24-hour gym in Eureka. We figured it would do fine. Well, 30 of our members left. So we're sitting on 100 members at $65 a month. What is that? It's not enough to pay the rent, bro. Like, it's not. So 100 times 65. Yeah, it's $6,500. So that basically pays the rent and part of the loan payment, because the loan payment was like $1,160 to pay off the rest of the $65,000. So we're in the hole every month till July. I want to say July is when I lowered the rates to 20 a month for everything. And yeah, it's been a struggle, bro. Like, it's been tough. And even some months, like this month, we didn't pay all the bills on time. Like, I paid part of the PG&E and like part of the Sudden Link, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
just to get by.
Yeah, and like, both Caleb and I have put in a lot of our own money, and I'm there every day. Like, he's not there. He's running the Fortuna location. So like, I'm running the gym day to day for the last 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And I paid myself probably for 3 months of that out of the 2 years. But I don't even pay myself now. I don't pay myself for the classes I teach or for like what I do in the office and like signing people up. Like,
you're just keeping the business floating.
Just keeping it floating. Trying to pay bills, bro.
Yeah. I know about that.
Yeah.
And
man.
with a gym, I would imagine, I'm talking out of my ass here a little bit, but members are 90% of it. Yeah, location is important, equipment, all of that. But when you're buying into a business like that, the members are a real selling point. If you've got a business that's already established as a gym that has real members that are going, and then you take over and you lose a bunch of those.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, bro. And a lot of people have come back now that we've lowered the prices, but it's been tough. Like, we went from, like I said, 100 members. We're at 490 members now, which is decent for 2 years, but I was thinking we were going to be at 1,000 in no time. Like, Planet Fitness, when I worked there 7 years ago, they had 4,000 members. But the crazy thing about Planet Fitness is their entire business model is based on getting people in who aren't going to use the equipment, but it's cheap enough to where every month they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in next month. And they don't. They just keep paying the $20 or $10 a month, and they never use the gym.
But it's
you know
insane
what I mean?
that business method works.
Yeah.
That you could start a business thinking, most people probably aren't going to show up. But if we can get a couple that just stay in that repeat billing process, we're golden.
Yeah, bro. It's and I'm not trying to hate on anybody's business, but sorry. But I mean, they give you pizza. What is it? Every Monday they have free pizza. I think every Tuesday they have bagels and coffee, which is like all that's carbs. It's not good for you. Yeah, and then they have like the little buckets up front that have Tootsie Rolls and stuff in them.
They have that alarm that they set off if you're actually trying to work out.
Yeah, they have a picture of what you're not supposed to look at. And it's like this big buff dude with like a stringer tank top on, jean shorts, and combat boots, with a water jug, a big water jug. So you're not allowed to have water jugs. You're not allowed to have, I think it can't be over 16 ounces. You can't have.
That's a real requirement.
You cannot have boots on, any kind of boots. You can't have, which is crazy because we have guys that are like EMTs and stuff that come in and work in their boots. And you can't wear jean shorts or jeans. You can't wear stringer tank tops, like the bodybuilding tank tops. You can't talk on your phone inside. There's a lot you can't bring any outside equipment. So last time I went to Planet Fitness, like I got rid of my membership there a long time ago, and I kept it for the tanning because they have free tanning if you're a Black Card member. But last time I went, I had this girl, she was like 14 and she was a boxing student, her and her mom. And she had like social anxiety. She had a really hard time like going into places with a lot of people. And one day I was like, let's try Planet Fitness. It's like, just try another gym. You know what I'm saying? Let's just feel it out, get you like out of your comfort zone. She's like, oh, I don't want to go. I'm like, you're going to have fun. So we went, had a great workout, did like a little, because the kids like to do Instagram content with me because I have a decent amount of followers and they're like, oh, you're going to make me Instagram famous or whatever. You know what I mean? So we did a little video and then she wanted to do mitts, like boxing mitts. And so I had brought my little micro mini mitts and a pair of gloves and we went, not the stretching area, but the area right next to it. Nobody was in there and we did mitts. We did little boxing mitts and like 3 staff members walked by. They didn't say anything. And we left. And when you buy a drop in there, it lasts 24 hours. So I went in the next morning to get in a quick workout because there's like 4 pieces of equipment there that we don't have at our gym. There's like an ab machine that I don't have. There's the good girl, bad girls, like the adductor machine. So I like to do those. I can't remember what else, but there's like 3 machines we don't have. So I go in there to do my workout, and the manager, Jerry, which is crazy because like when I worked there like 7 years ago, he was there.
You worked at Planet Fitness?
Yeah, I worked there like the whole story is like I got out of jail in 2016 or 17 and went to rehab for 3 months as a resident. And then we should probably record this. Are we recording?
Oh yeah, we're going.
Oh hell yeah.
We're going.
Hell yeah. Okay. So got out of jail, went to rehab. And then while I was a resident in rehab, I was really interested in like becoming a psychologist or behavioral therapist or a drug counselor. So I enrolled in CR as a drug counselor for the addiction studies program. And I did that for a year. I went to school for a year, but I was at the rehab for 3 months as a resident. And then when I graduated, I stayed on as the resident advisor. So you're like basically a junior counselor. Like you still run groups, you pass out medication, you make sure everybody's like in bed when they're supposed to be, the doors are locked, that kind of stuff. And did that. I was there all together for 9 months. But I saw 40 or 50 men go in and out of that program and relapse. 3 of them, I want to say 3 people went back to prison. 2 of them died in prison, I think, from getting stabbed. 1 of them overdosed. And like you become good friends with these people. Like you meet their kids, their families, like you see them get their shit together. And it was just, I'm super like, I don't know if I'm an empath or what, but like I get attached to people really easily, bro. And like care about people, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I'm a trainer and a coach. But it was just too hard on me to watch them like throw their lives away and die, bro.
Especially if they're starting to do good.
Yeah.
And it feels like they can make some real progress and get some traction and then flop.
Well, bro, and you hear every lie. When you're sitting in a group of 12 men and we pass around these like papers that have like questions for the day. Like, how are you feeling? Like, did you make a bad choice yesterday? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like an inventory and you hear every fucking bullshit lie. You hear the people, you see the people that are actually really trying to get it and the people that just don't give a fuck. They're just going through the motions. And the crazy thing is the guys who died actually were sincere. They weren't full of shit. They like really wanted it. And you also see like what takes people out. Like that's what we say in recovery, like what takes them out. And most of the time it's women. It's like they're going after their baby mom who's still on the streets or an ex-girlfriend or, whatever it is, or it's another person or beef with somebody they have that's in the program. Cause like in prison and in the streets, there's like a street conduct, like street code. Like you can't bunk up with a different race when you're in prison. If you're white or like for blacks, like I'm half black. So like for blacks, we don't care about politics. Like we don't politic hard. But like if you're a Mexican Southsider, like if you're a Sereno, you politic with the whites, you bunk with the whites, Native Americans too. They run with the whites as well. But if you're a black, you're usually with like northern Mexicans, like northerners. But we don't really politic we don't care. Like we're all people. We don't give a fuck. It's them that push the politics. You know what I mean? It's like the Aryan Brotherhood and whatnot. But
And when you're saying politics, you're saying race politics.
Race politics, prison politics. And it's not so much street, it's more prison. But if you come into a rehab program or like a clean and sober living and there's a dropout, like someone who dropped out of a gang, or there's a snitch, or there's a chomo, you have to take off on that person. You have to beat them up by the prison politics. It's like code. You have to do it. And there was no child molesters in there, but like, because they wouldn't have lasted long. But there were dropouts. You know what I'm saying? There were people that told, you know what I'm saying? Like told on somebody or whatever. There's paperwork on them. So when that happens, those guys, they have that mentality and they're not willing to give it up because they think they're going to go back. You know what I mean? And if you think like that, you're going to go back, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and the difference between me and them and why I think I made it is because I gave that shit up. I gave that, like if it was a child molester, probably would have rolled him up. You know what I mean? Like probably would have gave him the boot. But like, you know, if you told when you were like 18 or whatever, like, bro, people make mistakes, you know what I'm saying? And not to say that it's okay, but it's like, if you're not planning on going back, you have to turn over a new leaf. You have to turn a blind eye to that shit, program, get what you can out of the program and get the fuck out of there. Like it's only 3 months. You know what I mean? But you're not supposed to do it. So a lot of people didn't make it through because of that. And anyway, it was hard. It was hard watching these. Some of them were good people, bro. Like maybe they all were. I don't know. I'm not the judge of that. But watching them fail and lose their life or lose their families or lose their recovery, it was hard. And so I decided I wasn't going to do that. I was in college and one of my good friends, Glenn Farmer, I don't know if you ever heard of the Keto Chef meal prep company. He was a meal prep guy out here for a long time, but we had met on the streets, like in an abandoned building. I was trapping out of the building, like selling drugs out of the building. He was there. I like made him a jiggle key, which is like a key that like will start any car, whatever make key it is. Like, so I made him a Toyota jiggle key. He stole a Toyota, drove it to Southern Humble. Like he needed to get the fuck out of Eureka. So that was the first time I ever met him. And statute of limitations, so you can't take him to jail for that. Or me. And then I met him in jail. And when we were both in jail, we're both into fitness. We're both like working out, eating right. He was literally teaching people who had diabetes in jail how to get on keto in jail. Like don't eat bread, don't eat, starchy carbs, any of that stuff. And this guy Ant Dog, he got his insulin level or insulin medication levels down, and the guy lost a bunch of weight. So he was like helping people with fitness in jail. And so we became better friends in there. And then I met him again in college, and we're both sitting there talking like, fuck, bro, like there's so much filler information to get to like the meat of it. Like he was in kinesiology and I was in addiction studies. And I was like, bro, why don't you just start a meal prep company? I was like, just do it. Like just start cooking in your kitchen. And so he did that. And he was telling me I should be a trainer. So I got a job at Planet Fitness and then dropped out of CR. And everybody told me I was making a big mistake. And like, I didn't care. Like people tell me that kind of shit all the time, but I don't care because I know, like I'm very linear. I got my blinders on. And so I did the Planet Fitness thing. And that was honestly, bro, like everybody that worked there was miserable. Like everybody. And going back to the previous story about me training with the young girl in there, when I was working there, Jerry was there, who's the manager at Planet Fitness now. And he was on the same level as me. We're all getting paid $13 an hour. Like nobody's higher up above each other or whatever. And we were cool, bro. Like, I thought we were friends. I felt like we were friends. So I'm training this young girl, feed forward to just like a couple months ago or a few months ago. I'm training this girl. I come back the next day for my day pass and he's like, hey, bro, you can't do boxing in here. And I was like, come on, Jerry. Like, what are you talking about, bro? And he's like, you can't. And I'm like, well, show me the rules. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, because it doesn't say it on the rules. And he's got his two little peons behind him. And they got like these little smug looks on their face. And I'm like, pull out the rules for your trainees, man. Pull them out for me. Because I know, bro. Like I did every single workbook there. I did every training video that he did. Like I know all the shit. You know what I mean? And he pulls it out. And I'm like, it doesn't say anywhere here that it says no boxing. There's nothing here. And he's like, well, it says no outside equipment. And I'm like, oh, are you talking about my mitts and my gloves? And he's like, yeah, you can't bring that shit in here. I'm like, wait, so I could shadow box on the treadmill? He's like, no. And I'm like, bro, you got to choose your battles, dog. Like, you know, I bring people here for drop-ins. I have
Some
people sign up.
business.
Yeah, I bring you guys business. I've been coming here for as long as we both have worked here. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, the rules are the rules, Tyler. Like, don't try to bend them. You're not special. And I'm like, you know what, dog? I'm never going to come back. Like, you'll never see me here again. I'll never send any of my clients over here again. And he's like, that's fine. Do what you want to do. I'm like, all right, bro. Like, and it's just weird. It was like, just, he's never been like that to me before. And I'm not an asshole, like, or whatever. So I know it wasn't me. But it's just crazy to see like when people get a little bit of power, they like, because bro, you're getting paid maybe $20 an hour now. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it that serious? Like, is it, you know what I mean? Did someone complain? Nobody complained. You know what I mean? I could see if someone was like, you know, they're intimidating me or whatever, but that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? So, I don't fuck with the Purple Gym anymore.
Yeah, I went there with some friends who had memberships maybe when we were fresh out of high school. And it's just not, I mean, I think it's good for people that don't work out and maybe that's their intro into it because it's not as threatening, you could say, as of an environment, just the way it's structured. But I mean, this was back when they didn't have like any bench press. Their free weights were pretty hectic. It's just it's not what I would want from a gym, you know?
And bro, I don't want to knock the facility because I got shit done there. Like I was there.
I mean, you could get a good workout in anywhere.
Yeah.
You could get a great workout outside.
I mean,
you're motivated about it.
The only free weights they have are dumbbells and really small straight bar, like curl bars.
But they don't have a squat rack.
No, it's all Smith machines.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, like I blew my shoulder out on the Smith machine there because they have Cybex Smith machines, which are at a slant. So they're facing the mirror. And if you're facing the mirror doing bench, when you press, the bar is going backwards, which is putting a load on your shoulder, which is horrible. And like we have a Smith machine at our gym, but it goes straight up. So it doesn't do that. And I learned the hard way. I was at work and I was on my break and my buddy Dallas was benching like 275 and he's like, hey, Parr, come hit this. And my last name is Parr. And I was like, bro, I'm not warmed up. And he said, come on, hit it. I'm like, all right. So I went over there and I never had benched 275. I was like 145 pounds back then and maybe 155. And I put it up and I was like, damn. And then I went to put it up again and it popped and it tore my rotator cuff. And but anyway, the other crazy thing, about Planet Fitness is if you're an employee, you're not allowed to adjust people's form. So if they're working out wrong and they're going to hurt themselves, you can't be like, hey, bro, let me show you how to do this. You have to be the trainer. And there's only one trainer there and they're only there certain hours of the day, which is crazy to me. Like if I'm watching someone like really hurt themselves or do something incorrectly, I can't be like, hey, try this way or whatever.
I don't know if I'm mad at that just because how many people actually know what they're doing versus think that they do. So if you don't actually know, but you think you do, and you go try to correct somebody's form and then they get hurt, now it's on the company.
That's true.
I mean, I've seen trainers who are certified personal trainers training people and the form is just dog shit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you're going to get somebody hurt.
Yeah.
And they're barely paying attention. They're on their phone giving them words of encouragement, barely paying attention. It's like, especially when it's an older person.
For that, bro.
There'll be people who are in their 50s squatting with terrible form, with weight on the bar.
Yeah.
And the personal trainer's like, oh yeah, good job. Barely going down, no range of motion. The bar's way too high up on their neck.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what is happening?
Bro, I should say this on a public platform, but people who are old, no offense to you, right? But you should be doing body weight. You should stick to body weight and like machines at a low weight until you build enough muscle to use free weights. Like I don't think people that are like have never lifted a weight in their life should be doing squats with a barbell. Like that's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Build up the form and then do a barbell with no added weight.
Yeah.
And really get the form down and then slowly, incrementally put weight on there.
Yeah. We have 45-pound barbells, 35s, and 25-pound barbells. So I'll when people are ready for squats or deadlifts or whatever, I'll start them on a smaller barbell and then build them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to do something severe with 25 pounds on your back.
But to be honest, and not to be petty, but I'm hoping that the mall closes so that Planet Fitness is gone.
So they going back to the original story there, are they taking a lot of business from you guys, or it's just hard to
No,
compete?
they're not taking a lot of, we're getting members from them. Like most people that come to our gym either saw us on Instagram, or someone referred them, or they're tired of Planet Fitness. And the majority of people that come over are like, can I deadlift here? Like, do you guys have punching bags? Like, what, you know, whatever Planet Fitness doesn't have, they come to us. And a lot of people keep their Planet Fitness membership, which I'm fine with. It doesn't bother me. But and a lot of people bring people over with them. They're like, hey, come over here. Like, I started working out at this gym, and they'll come over to our gym. I just thought it'd be faster. I just thought the growth would be faster. And it's happening slowly. We lose a lot of members to moving away though. Like college students.
Area.
Yeah, like a lot of people move. Like we've probably had 20 people at least in the last like month or two who moved out of the area. And it wasn't just it wasn't college students. It was like people who were just tired of California. You know, like I've had friends, a lot of friends move back to their hometowns, move to Florida, Texas, just to get out of California, you know.
This area has so much potential. It's just not utilized. And so there's no opportunity. There's no work.
The infrastructure. And I think what it is, bro, is I just did a podcast Sunday with James Graham. And we have a lot of the same beliefs as far as like what's happening in this community, what needs to be done. And I grew up here the majority of my life. Like I was born here, you know what I mean? And I've seen so much negative change here. And I think the people, especially in Eureka, the city council, mayor, all that stuff, they're so focused on catering to the people who don't vote and don't pay rent, like homeless people and drug addicts. And they're not focused on catering to the people that pay the property taxes here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's more important to take care of the people who actually cultivate the community instead of the ones that tear it down. Like, personally, that's what I believe. And I was a drug addict, bro. I lived on the streets. I was homeless. You know what I mean? But I also met and I know most of the people that are out there, and I know what their intentions are. And the majority of the people is they just want the next bag of dope. Like, that's all they care about. And they'll do anything to get it. Like, anything, bro. You know what I mean? And so, and I have empathy for them because the majority of people have mental health issues or they had something tragic happen in their life, but you're only a victim until you start victimizing people. And when you're hurting the community that we all live in, and then you have the city council or the mayor saying, you know, oh, they need free needles. And it's like, so you can enable them to shoot up drugs and possibly overdose or, you know, give a disease to somebody else by sharing a needle. You know what I mean? Like, it's so counterintuitive to me. And like I said, I've lived out there. I've used needles, bro. I sold heroin. I sold drugs. I did all the stuff that they do. You know what I'm saying? So I know what it is out there. It's not sweet. They're not good people in their addiction. Like, there's people that I know. I go to a Secretariat NA meeting every Sunday night, and there's great people in recovery. There's awesome addicts out there, you know what I mean, that are clean and sober. But the ones that are using, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not, yeah.
And you can't help people unless they want to be helped.
Nope.
That's the big thing.
And people lie. People act like they want the help until they get what they think they need, and then they dip out and go do the same shit. Like, when I worked in that rehab, bro, it was, I learned a lot about people, man. I learned a lot about manipulation, and they're some of the best manipulators ever. Like, if they were politicians, they'd be freaking killing it. You know what I mean? Like, put an addict in the White House, bro. You know
I bet we already have one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are politicians, you know, they just wear the mask a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Bro, I only have a year and a month sober now. I relapsed. My best friend, Conrad Reardon, allegedly committed suicide. I still question whether or not that's true or not. He crashed his Tesla into a wall, like, I think almost 2 years ago now. And then right after that, one of my clients and friends, great friends, Steve Buckingham, committed suicide. We're actually right down the street here. But they had both just got married, both had brand new babies. Like, had all this stuff going for him. And what was my point? Why was I bringing that up? We were talking about mental health. We're talking about
Drug use, wearing the
drug
mask,
use.
politicians.
Oh man, I just totally lost my train of thought. Dang it.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. Anyway, my relapse, addicts, alcoholics. But bro, that shit took me out. Like that, losing people, like my best friend. Conrad's my best fucking friend, bro. Like, he was. And such a good dude, man. Such a, like, he's the type of person, if you're in a bad mood or you're depressed, he'll come pick you up and get you out of that mood. Like when my wife and I, we split up for like 8 months, like 6-7 years ago. Like we were together for like 8 months, 10 months, and then we split up for a little while, saw the people. And that whole time, like I was out sleeping with other girls, like looking like I was like happy, but I was depressed and he knew it, bro. And like I'd be in my room, like dark ass room, my little bachelor pad. And he texts me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm busy. He'd be like, are you really busy, bro? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? And he'd be like, I'm at your front door. And he'd come in. He'd just walk right in like freaking Kramer. He'd walk in and be like, where's Tyler Parr at? And he'd be like, we're going to do this. We're going to go to Burlesque, or we're going to go to Synapsis and watch freaking Aerial Silks, or we're going to go. And he owned a bar. He owned Arts and Drafts. He was like co-owner, and we were both clean. He was in AA. So we would just drink kombucha and nitro brew, and everybody else would drink, and he'd like make crazy drinks for people, and like we'd do art and shit. And he was just an entertainer, man. He was just always upbeat. But when he passed, bro, it was like, it blew my mind, dog. Especially because they were saying that he killed himself, which he could have. Like he very well could have. He could have been the life of the party and been depressed himself. You know what I'm saying? But it messed me up, man. And I started drinking and dabbling in other stuff too. And I ended up going to the hospital. I fell, I like passed out at my house and tore my rotator cuff again and sprained my hip and like hit the back of my head. Had to go to the hospital for like a couple weeks. And that was a wake up call for me. Cause I have everything, bro. I have everything I ever wanted. I got my business, my wife, my kids, my health. Like I had everything. But I learned a lot from that situation. I learned that like, I don't have it all together in here. Like I don't, even though I think I do, like I still need to, use the tools that I got from recovery, from rehab and from NA. And I need to implement those in my life every day. Cause I might think I have it all together and not implement those tools. And then something like that happens and then I fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why, the majority of people that are still on the streets don't have those tools. And going back to like the local government and everything, just California government in general, is giving people the ability to continue using by giving them needles or lowering the charges on possession or whatever. You know, it's a misdemeanor now, which is crazy. Excuse me. That's not giving them the tools they need to get off the shit and get their lives together. You know what I'm saying? So why are you going to give some, they might as well give them dope.
I think we're close.
Yeah, I think we are. I think because Oregon, decriminalized it?
Yeah, they backtracked a little bit. I'm not sure how that changed, but I know they walked some of that back because it just got too chaotic up there.
Yeah.
It's almost an overcompensation with compassion, where people have formed this thought that you can help people rehabilitate their lives without actually having them change any aspect of it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stop doing drugs. We don't really have to address any of these underlying issues. We're just going to get you a place to stay, make it easier to do the drugs, and in some way that's going to stabilize you, which doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think creating scarcity propels people into change, drastic change. So for me, desperation is what got me clean. Like being desperate. Living in Devil's Playground, I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, bro. Like I lived there for 8 months. I went down, my boy called me, or he texted me. I can't remember if he texted me or called. I think he called me and was like, hey bro, there's money down here. And I think I was on the run or like skipped court or something. I don't know what I maybe had just come back in town from being on the run for like 2 years. And I didn't really have anywhere to go. Like I was like couch surfing and shit, and I needed a way to make money. And he was like, bro, I'm selling like an ounce of heroin a day down here, like maybe 2 on a good day. And I'm like, all right, I'll be down there. So I go down there, and it's like every convict I've ever met or known, every homeless person, even people who weren't, people who just came down there to buy drugs, like regular people, were there. And it was just like every 5 feet, 10 feet, there's a campsite with a different group of people doing a different drug or whatever. And there's drama. There's people got stabbed, shot, all kinds of crazy shit when I was down there. My boy who actually invited me down there went to prison for 7 years for stabbing somebody.
Down there?
Yeah. And he got out. He's been clean for the whole 7 years he was in prison. And I think he's been clean for 8 years now because he's been out for like a year. And now he's all good. He's got a job, family, house, in like Rio Del or Scotia now. He's doing good. But when you're down there in a place like that, you have everything you need because the mall's right there. And we just boost. When you need shoes, you go and boost shoes from the mall, and they don't stop you. Like security will like chase you, but they can't touch you. You know what I mean? And I think that's why the mall's suffering now. I think that's why a lot of the stores closed down. But being down there and seeing the desperation, because in wintertime it sucks, because that place floods. It floods bad. And so there's like literal houses people have built out there. There was back then out of pallets and like stolen wood and like tarps, because they put them up on pallets so that they're high enough to where the floodwater doesn't get to the actual tent or whatever. But there are people there that are totally content. They're totally content with it because they don't have to work. You just go steal some shit and then trade it to the dope man. You know what I'm saying? Or put it on Facebook Marketplace. You know what I mean? And then you got your fix every day. You've got, you stole your camping equipment and your propane and your, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you have everything you need there. So people really don't want to leave. But I got to a point where I realized early on, but like I stayed for way too long, but like that this is disgusting. Like living like this is absolutely disgusting. It's unacceptable. And I got tired of getting my shit stolen and like watching people get stabbed and killed and, overdosing. I overdosed so many times in my life, or the time I was using. And so I went to rehab, or I think I went to jail, got out, went to rehab. And I just didn't want to go back. And I think being in the program, being in that rehab for 9 months, helped me see what I didn't want to be by seeing people lie and go back out. And you know what I mean? It like reminded me that like, oh yeah, I don't want to
live this way.
Yeah. I don't want to dabble. I don't want to like,
You were down there for 8 months?
8 months. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dude, I lost the tip of my finger. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. My pointer finger is like smaller than the rest of my fingers. There was a bad batch of heroin that was going around, and it was like, because heroin's like black tar heroin's like black. And you have a cat?
No.
Okay, I have allergies.
Okay, we were smoking cigars in here.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it is.
That might be what it is.
Yeah, that might be what it is.
My bad, I set you up.
It's all good. It's all good, bro. So I was cutting a piece of heroin, like this big old chunk of heroin with a razor blade, and it sliced through my fingertip. And I'm like, oh, it's nothing. I like sucked on it, put a Band-Aid on it, thought it was fine. The next day, my hand swelled up like a Mickey Mouse hand. And so I went to the doctor, and I think they lanced it, like cleaned it, bandaged it. And but they didn't give me any antibiotics, I don't think, that time. And it just got worse. Like it got to where it was like excruciatingly painful. And so I go back, they do it again, they give me antibiotics, I get on antibiotics, it would kind of go down, but the wound like wouldn't heal. And this went on and I was using the whole time. I was using drugs and living in Devil's Playground. So eventually, I think I went to jail a couple times, and like it would heal up kind of, but the wound like wasn't closing. And so finally they put me in surgery at Mad River, and they removed the tip of my finger. And when I woke up, because they put me under anesthetics, when I woke up, it was like the worst pain I'd ever felt on my fingertip. And they're like, he just wants drugs. He just wants drugs. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want drugs. This fucking hurts. You know what I mean? So they shot me up with whatever, and I felt fine after that. And then when I left, they gave me like a prescription of like 100 Oxycontins, which is bad. You don't give a drug addict that much drugs.
And that's an insane amount.
And my mom and my stepdad just happened to be visiting. So they picked me up from the hospital. And I want to say I was still homeless at the time. And I'm like, hey, stop here real quick. And like had him stop at the Gulch and like went down there and like traded some pills for heroin. Like I was bad, bro. Like I did not care. And so the wound still wasn't shutting. And so I kept going back to the doctors here, and they basically were just turning me away at that point. And so I think they might have referred me to a specialist or something in Chico, and I was planning on going out there anyway and getting on the methadone program because I just wanted to get off heroin. And so I went to Chico and stayed with my cousin for a little while and got on the methadone program, went to the specialist. They did a new x-ray and they're like, oh, that's the problem. You have 2 pieces, like slivers of infected bone still floating around in your finger. So that entire time I was like going back to the doctor and like trying to figure, they could have just done an x-ray and figured out what was wrong and realized the surgeon left 2 pieces of infected bone in there. And 2 days before the surgery, I saw this thing poking out of my finger and I was like, what is that? And I started squeezing it. And sure enough, the 2 pieces of infected bone just like pushed themselves out. It looked like worms almost, but it was like pure black. It was crazy. And then like within a couple of days, it started healing back up. So that's how I lost my finger. But that's what Devil's Playground has for you guys if you ever want to go down there.
I took a girl on a date down there one time.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Was she a witch?
No. She was hot though. And she was into graffiti.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Devil's Playground, it's an abandoned old train depot. Is that what it is?
Trains, but also they used to do whaling.
So, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's like they'd bring the whales in there and like slaughter them and take the blubber and process it or whatever. Yeah.
So it's like a wetland with a few semi-standing concrete structures and then just a lot of homeless people out there living.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went out there, we checked out the graffiti. I thought that would be a good date. Luckily, cool. I mean, this was late 2010s, so it wasn't as bad back there. They had cleaned it out a few times. But
they've been trying. Like, there's still people back there today. Like, it's
yeah. How do you stop people from going back there?
You don't. I mean, you got to build something there, bro. I mean, it's considered wetland, so they don't want to like tear it down or anything. Oh, did I forget my chapstick? I don't think it'll ever stop, bro. Unless they unless they make an ordinance in the city. And then going back to the homeless thing, like drug addicts and stuff, but like unless they make an ordinance that states that you cannot camp within city limits, which they should, because then it forces people to go to programs, to go to rehab, because there's plenty of rehabs out here. There's like 10, or go to the mission and do the year program at the mission, or at least stay in the mission. Because there's a like just a homeless people's part where they just come for the night. I think they have to be there at like 8 or 9. And then there's a program that's a year program. And Teen Challenge has plenty of beds too. It makes them have to get help. You know what I mean? By making an ordinance that says you can't camp within city limits, which is not unreasonable. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
I mean, they spent $16 million on housing homeless during COVID.
We've spent
hotels.
In terms of California, I think we've spent over $1 billion trying to tackle this problem. Where has that money gone? It definitely hasn't gotten better. Yeah, probably.
I don't know, man. Yeah, my wife's brother was a sheriff here. He moved, but he was saying what he thinks is they need to bring back mental institutions, like actual mental institutions, because the majority of people, and I know from firsthand experience, bro, they're dual diagnosis. They're people with mental health conditions and drug addiction as a result of the mental health condition. They're trying to medicate themselves. They need to be in a facility for a long, probably a year, to be evaluated probably by multiple physicians and figure out what the root cause of it is. Going to counseling, individual counseling, group counseling, finding out what medications are best for them if they need medications, and building up their bodies, getting into fitness, all that kind of stuff. Because like fitness saved my life, you know what I mean? There needs to be more than just rehab for some people, you know what I mean? And the rehabs need to be like Waterfront is a great rehab facility. I went through there when it was Lee Brown, when it was on C and 14th. It was just like 3 houses on one block. And I think I've been to rehab like 5 times before that. And that was the first time I ever got it. But now they're dual diagnosis. I want to say dual diagnosis facility. With like, I don't even know how, there's so many beds in there. There's like, I think they can house 60 people or something like that. But they have on-site nurses, actual doctors, psychologists, drug counselors. They need to make every facility like that. And we need multiple, you know what I mean, here in Humboldt.
The idea that it's born out of necessity, the want to change. I mean, it almost sounds like you have to hit rock bottom before you can reach that point. I mean, it's for you, overdosing, living in Devil's Playground. I mean, things have to get bad before you actually want to change, which nobody wants to hear. Everyone wants to think that you can just help somebody wherever they're at. And ideally, they haven't hit rock bottom yet and you can save them. But it almost feels like they have to go as low as they need to go.
Well, a lot of us are stubborn, bro. Like, I'm so stubborn. I hit rock bottom and then was like, give me the pickaxe, and like dug a bigger hole.
I'm going to keep going.
You know what I mean? Like, that's literally what I did multiple times. Like, getting shot at, someone gave me a hot shot, which is like where they spray bug spray on your drugs. So when you shoot it up, it stops your heart. When I was in San Jose.
With the intention of killing.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. When I was in San Jose, so I went on the run for like 2 years. I wanted to say I was like 26 or something. Or no, because I got my last charge in 2016. No, it was 20. I can't remember. No, I got the arrest when I was like, it was like 2015 or something like that. I'm 38 now, so do the math. But got this charge for possession of stolen vehicle. And funny thing is, my wife's brother is actually one of the last cops that arrested me in McKinleyville. He arrested me, and Officer Cal arrested me for, I fell asleep in a stolen van. And this lady had convinced me to crash it for her to get the insurance money. But it turns out it wasn't hers. It was somebody that she owed money to or owed her. I don't know. But it ended up being my friend's mom's van. I didn't know that. And I had a bunch of stolen shit in it. Like, I used to do commercial burglaries, so it like had like weed whackers still in the box and like chainsaws and like from some commercial place. And I think I had like a couple of GPSs or some shit. And so they caught me with all this stuff, took me to jail, but they book and release you for most shit. I think I did like maybe less than 30 days. And then they gave me a court date. I went to an arraignment, and then I had another court date. So I ran. I was like, I'm out. And I went to Sonora, stayed in the mountains with like some old Hells Angels and like pan gold, and packed a shotgun up and down the hill where we like pan gold, just crazy shit. And then I just got tired of being there. And my buddy, who was a biker, he was being investigated by the feds, and the feds showed up, and he wasn't there. He was like at the store or some shit. And they're like, where's your bro at? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going on. And they're like, you have a warrant. And I'm like, for what? They're like, you have a warrant in Humboldt County for possession of stolen vehicle. And they're like, but we don't want to do the paperwork. And so they left. They're like, but you better leave because the local authorities are going to be here. So I took off. I freaking hitchhiked to Jackson, and then I hitchhiked to Stockton. And this lady is giving me a ride to Stockton from like Jackson, I think it was. And she had a bong in between her legs. She's like hitting the bong. She has a beer in one hand. She's driving the car with one hand. She's a talker. So she's talking to me the whole time, super animated. And she's swerving and shit. And I could not wait to get the fuck out. And there's like a dog in between us right here. Her little dog is just sitting there looking at me all crazy. And we pull into Stockton, and the first thing I see is this little old black lady smoking crack on the front steps of a church, and a guy right next to her shitting on the church. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is Stockton. Welcome to Stockton. So I get out at the Mission there. It's like over next to Marion. I think it's like Southside Stockton. And it's like jumping, bro. There's like a dope dealer on every corner. The police station's like a block away. They can see everything that's going on, and they don't give a fuck. And there's heroin, there's meth, there's coke, there's crack, there's everything. And I had been like trying to stay clean the whole time I was on the run, like at my cousin's house and up in the mountains. I've been trying to like not, you know what I mean? Just trying to like be good. And I was just in the thick of it. And I think I was like 2 days there before I started using again. And I met this OG who, he was just a hustler, just an old brother, he was just a hustler, and he kind of put me on, and I had like a phone or 2 phones, and I traded him one for some dope, and then I just started selling dope. It was so easy, bro. It was so easy, and you don't get arrested. You don't get stopped. You can stand on a corner and just shake. And what they do is they put heroin in a pill bottle, like a little piece of heroin in a pill bottle with a little piece of meth or coke, and you put a penny in it and you shake it, and that lets the drug addicts know that you got it.
That's like sending up the bad signal.
Yeah, and then you just put a little piece on your hand and let them sniff it to see if it's good or whatever. Or you sniff it so that you could show them it's good, and so I did that for, I think I was there for like 5 or 6 months. But bro, one thing about Stockton, it's crazy that there's still places like this in the United States. There are gunshots every night, and not just semi-automatic pistols. It's pop, 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 pop. Like you hear shootouts happening all around Stockton, bro. Like it's every single night. It's no exaggeration. I saw a high-speed chase come through that little street I was on. I think it's Sonora or Church Street, but it's right next to Mariani's. Mariani's is like a landmark in Stockton. It's like an old, like a Western clothing store, because there's a lot of Hispanics down there, and they dress in like cowboy boots and stuff. But so I was there for like 5-6 months, and then it was just dangerous, bro. I got tired of being there. I saw some crazy shit happen, and so I decided I was going to steal a car, because I knew how to steal cars. That was like my thing. And so I went to Sears, and they have like new cars that need to be fixed parked in one line, and cars that are already fixed parked in the other line. And I know that they put the keys on the tire or in the ignition on the ones that need to be fixed, and then the ones that are already fixed, they keep the keys. So I see this brand new or newer Chevy Malibu, and I grab the keys and take off. And thankfully, it didn't have anything wrong with it. They like didn't let it run. It was the gas gauge, so it made it look like I had a full tank the whole time, but it didn't. And so I get down the road, and I like park it in this abandoned house carport, and I look in the back seat, and there's a car seat in the back seat, and I'm just like, "Fuck, dude!" I felt like such a piece of shit, but I'm already in it. I can't bring the car back. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I take the car seat out and I leave it, and I'm just like, the whole time I just feel super guilty. I'm like, I just stole some chick's car. You know what I mean? Like some chick that has a kid. You know what I mean? But I was like already in it. So I knew this dude named J Money, who was a rap, and I've been rapping for years. He was like a rapper from the Bay Area, from like, I think he said he was from like San Pablo or somewhere. Anyway, he was like, "Oh bro, we can go to my boy's studio and make music in the Bay." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm going to Vegas." And I had a girl out there who I was dealing with, who I've been dealing with for a lot of years, and she was a dancer and whatever, and she's like, "Come out to Vegas, da 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 da." And so I was like gonna stop in the Bay for a little bit and then go to Vegas. That was my plan. So like, I think I changed the plates or something on the car, packed my bags, read up with my dealer, and me and this guy Jay Money take off, and we get to San Jose, and he is sweating the whole ride, bro, from Stockton to San Jose. He's like pouring sweat and stinks, like he's like body odor bad. And I'm like, "Bro, you gotta clean yourself up, dog." And he's like tweaking the whole time. He's like looking through shit and just like doing too much. And like if cops would have saw us, they would have pulled us over, no doubt in my mind, because he was just doing too much. And so I threw him, like, I had some diaper wipes. And I'm like, because I always keep my butthole clean, you know what I'm saying? I like to wipe with diaper wipes afterwards. So I throw him some diaper wipes. I'm like, "Bro, get out and clean yourself up." So he gets out, and I'm like on my phone or something, and I look up, and he's in these people's yard butt naked, and it's like 2 a.m. or some shit. This fool is butt naked, and we're black people. Like, he's a black dude, bro. Like, butt naked black guy in the middle of these probably like white people or Hispanic people's yard, washing himself in their hose. And I'm like, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing, dude?" And I try to start the car, and it won't start. And I'm like, "Oh, it's the gas gauge." So thankfully I had a gas can. So I jump out, try to put the gas in. He's throwing his clothes on. He jumps in. And as I'm putting the gas in, San Jose police drive by. I'm like, "Fuck." So I throw the gas can in the back, start the car, take off around the corner, and I just park in some random house's driveway because they're right on me. And I start unpacking our bags like we live there. You know what I mean? I'm just like trying to make it look normal, because there was no way I was going to outrun them on a, like, however many gallons. It was like a little tank. I think it was like a gallon of gas. And they're like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Oh, we just came back from Stockton. You know, we were visiting family. I'm bringing this car back for my aunt." And he's like, oh, well, your aunt reported it stolen. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that can't be right. And they're like, yeah. Da, 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 da. And so they hand me up, put me in handcuffs. And there was at least 3 grams of heroin in the car, some crack, maybe some meth, but it was like stashed. And they didn't find that, which was crazy. But they put me in the paddy wagon, like an actual paddy wagon. And so and there's like 3 or 4 other guys in there, and I'm handcuffed to the bench, and I'm like, where's my Cody? Cody is like co-defendant. I'm like, where's my Cody? And it pulls off. The paddy wagon pulls off, and I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, your co-defendant must have told on you. So he got let go because he told on me. You know, he said I stole the car. And so when I get to the jail, they start interrogating me, and they're like, oh yeah, your co-defendant says your name is Big Red from Stockton, and you're a blood, and you're one of the biggest dope dealers in Stockton and all this. And there was some truth behind it. Like, I wasn't one of the biggest dope dealers. Like, that's crazy. But like, they call me Red. They call me Big Red because I'm short. The opposite, you know what I mean? Big for short, whatever. And I'm Redbone. I'm a half black. So they call Redbones Red. And, but he just like said a bunch of crazy shit that wasn't really.
It was selling you out.
Selling me out. Yeah. And so I did my little time, and that was the coolest jail I've ever been to, bro. Like, if you took all the homeless people off the street and put them in Santa Clara County Jail, like Elmwood in San Jose, they either would never want to leave or they would get clean, because that place is like, it's like a summer camp. Like, there's no politics in that jail because it's ran by Northerners who are Northsiders, Northern Mexicans, and they don't like to politic like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so there's like whites, blacks, and Northern Mexicans. All the Southsiders have their own maximum security facility where they politic. They don't politic with anybody. But it was all love. I learned a lot of shit there, bro. I learned different workouts. I learned how to make spiders out of like realistic looking spiders out of toilet paper, and like you put different colored packets of Kool-Aid on them to like make it look like a real spider. Like, weird shit, but it was fun, man. I had a good time. I had some really cool cellies. This guy named B.O.B. Bands on Bands. Shout out to B.O.B. Some good people, like actual good people. Got some great workouts in, played handball. But then when I got out, I didn't have anywhere to go. I'm in San Jose. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm right back into the streets. I didn't have any money, nothing. I had 1 pair of clothes because they took everything. All my bags, everything went to, because I couldn't prove it was my shit. So it went to whoever's car it was. So they got all my fits and everything. And so I'm on the streets of San Jose, and I go to where the drug addicts are to make money. You know what I'm saying? And I start hustling. You know, I think I actually recycled cans, like dumpster dived and recycled cans to get my first bag of dope, and started hustling off of that in San Jose because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any money. And did that for probably like 5 months there. And it wasn't as crazy in San Jose, but there were some areas. We were living in an abandoned propane building, and there was this Crip named Bandit, Sunnyvale Crip, and his girl was a prostitute and a dope dealer too. And I was at the dope spot all the time, making money, whatever, hustling. And she was a trip, dude. She kept on asking me if I wanted to take over the spot with her and all this crazy shit. And I'm like, no, you're tripping. And one day she was like, let's kill Bandit and take over the dope spot. We can make like thousands a day and all this stuff. And I'm like, you're fucking crazy. And so I left, came back the next day, and he was there. And when you don't use, when you're a heroin addict and you don't have a dope, for some reason I was sick. Like, I couldn't get heroin. And he showed up, and I'm like, hey bro, I need to talk to you. And he's like, what's up? And I'm like, your girl said she wants to kill you and have me take over the spot. And he's like, that's crazy. She said the same thing about you. And I'm like, what, bro? I'm like, I would never do that. And he's like, all right, bro, I got you, whatever. And I was like, hey, do you got any black? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, what do you got? And he's like, I got some meth. And so I gave him $20. He gave me the meth, and I did the shot, and it had bug spray on it. And I don't know if he knew, if he got it from someone else. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I'm assuming he knew. And all of a sudden I just felt my lungs get super tight, and I already have asthma, bro. I could like barely breathe. And there was this chick that always hung out there, and I swear she was a cop. She was an undercover cop. She had a tattoo of a girl cop on her arm, like graffiti girl cop. And she drove like a dark blue Camaro. If you're out there, if you're listening, thank you. But I ran over to her, And I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I could barely even talk or breathe. And she literally dragged me into her car, drove me to the clinic, and the clinic was closed. So she called 911 and just dropped me there in the parking lot. And the ambulance gets there and my heart had already stopped. And the EMT, thank God, he pumped my heart all the way 6 minutes to the hospital, and my heart started back up when we got to the hospital. And so I was on life support for a week, or like 6 days, I think it was. And my heart, and I was in a coma for that 6 days. So when I woke up, I had these tubes in my arms that were going to this machine, and it was like cleaning my blood because my blood had become septic. And I could barely talk because I was on the respirator or whatever, but they had taken it out because I started breathing on my own. And my throat was hella swollen, and I opened my eyes, and there's the window and the sun shining through, and there's this beautiful blonde doctor from like Russia or Ukraine or something. And I thought she was an angel. I thought I died. And she's like, "You're lucky to be here. Somebody's looking after you, or somebody up there is looking after you," or something like that. And I didn't remember what happened. I couldn't remember 2 weeks prior to when that happened. So I had no clue how I got there. I didn't know how long I'd been there. And, but it's starting to hit me like, and she's explaining to me what happened or what's happening or what happened or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't think I said anything. I think I was just like at a loss for words. And so I'm laying in this hospital bed. I think I was there for like maybe 2 more days after that. And I'm just like trying to remember, like if you ever like forgotten something, like it's different than like losing a word in a sentence. It's like black, like no memory whatsoever, like no dreams when I was in the coma, nothing, just black. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go find out. So I leave the hospital. Like they gave me some, they cut my clothes off. So they gave me like a sweatsuit, like a gray sweatsuit and a BART pass. So I jump on the BART, go right back to where I was. And when everybody sees me, it's like they're looking at a ghost. And like nobody wants to talk. Everybody's being super like awkward and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I had my bag stashed on the top of this semi truck that was parked in the back of this propane building we were staying in. And my bags were gone. And I was like, fuck, like all my shoes, clothes, everything's gone. And so I start like backtracking my steps. And then finally somebody told me what happened. And I'm like, oh shit, like these guys want to kill me. And so I go to this church, and there happens to be this pastor who's a traveling pastor from like, I think Liberia or Kenya or something. Him and his wife were there, and they're visiting this other pastor, and they like prayed on me. They gave me a box of Oreos, and they're like, we're going to get you a bus pass and get you back home. And so they take me to the bus station, got me a bus pass, and I came back to Humboldt. I was there for 2 days. And I was at Shell gas station right across from my gym right now on Broadway. And EPD sees me and they're like, hey, because my warrant, I guess, so when I went to jail in San Jose, they didn't extradite me back to Humboldt for the warrant up here. Humboldt didn't want to come get me. So I get back up here and EPD sees me and right away they arrest me 2 days in. So I went to jail and then that's when I got out and got clean and sober. So that's the...
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You've lived such an insane life.
Bro, Forrest Gump.
I was telling you that I watched that I'm Still Here interview that you did. And it's nonstop. I mean, you've been through the ringer a few times.
Bro, and I told James after that interview, like, I left out so many details, like so much stuff, like just like inner workings of like, you know, dialogue and like little things that like, and it's, dude, I have a brain like Alex Jones. Like when I talk about stuff, I can't help but like veer off because like my brain remembers this. Oh, I got to make sure I make that point. And
well, it's all important to the story.
Yeah.
You got to write a book.
Yeah.
You got to do something, man.
Dude, I want to, Tex wrote that book, Tex Kelly, he wrote that book, The Art of Growth. Have you interviewed Tex yet?
No, I got to bring Tex on. I've been kicking it around.
I did a podcast interview with him at my studio and the last 15 minutes cut off on my phone. My phone like died or ran out of storage or something. And I didn't know till I watched it and I'm like, fuck. Like, so
I've been
like,
there a few
everybody's
times.
like, just drop it. And I'm like, dude, but it cuts off the end. Like, so I'm probably just going to drop it, but I'd like to do a new one with him because that was at least a year or two ago. And he's done so much more since then. But he's a great dude, man.
He's an interesting cat.
Yeah.
Him and Justin have worked on a lot of stuff together.
Yeah. And he's just a good person. Like, I guess I don't know if it was him that told me or Brody, or Brady, Brady is one of his close friends, was saying that like people talk shit and say that he can't be that nice. And I'm like, bro, he's that nice. Like Tex is that good of a guy. Like he's really that person. You know what I mean? Like he really cares. Which I don't understand why it's so hard for people to believe that, but he's a good
there's
dude.
actually good people. Out
Yeah,
there.
he's a good dude, man. And I've known him since he was like 19. I met him in person at Sidelines, and I was with my best friend Conrad because we'd go to bars, bro. We weren't drinking or anything, but we'd like go play pool, and like all our friends drank and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like we'd hang out, and I met him there, and I think it was before he did TikTok, before he wrote his book. I can't remember, was he playing at HSU or not? But that's where I met him. We had a great conversation, and he's just a good dude, man. He's a solid dude, and he's a hard worker. He goes and gets it. You know what I mean? Freaking million followers on TikTok in like less than a year. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what is the catalyst? I mean, you go through all that. I mean, your whole backstory, you have so many moments where it's almost like you could pivot, that this feels like a rock bottom. What's the catalyst to actually finally implement that change?
Well, dying for
yeah, but
my heart stopped.
You OD'd a few times, right?
Yeah, and ODing's different than like being in a coma, bro. And
so this was the worst one when that happened. This was
and I was shot. Oh, I forgot to put that in there. So when I was in Sonora, I got shot at by my aunt's boyfriend. I was living with my aunt and my cousin and her boyfriend and like his friend, and it was a tiny house. It was like a 2-bedroom apartment underneath his grandma's house, and he was just a dirtbag. He was an asshole, treated my aunt like shit, and he was just like, he was young. He was like probably like 22 or something like that, and I'm a little bit older, and like I'm from a background where it's like I've been through some shit. And when people like haven't, like you're living in grandma's house and she's always you don't work or anything. She got you a car, like you have everything you need. You play video games all day. You don't have a job, and you're trying to talk to me some kind of, you know what I mean? Like there's no respect there, bro. Like you're not going to like disrespect me. And that's just how he was. He was always like kind of like just saying little weird shit. We ended up getting in a fight, and he's like 6'2", 5", something like that. And probably like 300 pounds, big dude. And we got in a fight, and my punches just weren't doing nothing to him. I'm just like decking him, and it's not doing anything. And so I put him in an arm bar and took him down and made him tap. And then I took off and went up to my boy's house up on Columbia, which is right above Sonora. Excuse me. It's like next to Modesto. But I'm up there staying at my boy's trailer, and my cousin had a trailer that she goes staying with her boyfriend in front of that trailer. And we're in my cousin's trailer, and all of a sudden we hear a truck pull up, and Tyler, come the fuck outside. Da, 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 da. So I come outside, and him and his 2 buddies are there with shotguns. And I'm like, you ain't gonna do shit with that, blah, blah, blah. And we all come out, and there's kids in the other trailer too, right behind this one. So we're all like right here. My cousin's trailer's here, and then the other trailer's right here. So if they would have shot, it could have hit the kids in the you know what I mean? I think there's 2 kids in that trailer. And I'm like, bro, put the gun down. You know what I'm saying? You're 3 times my size. You know what I mean? Like, put the gun down. And I turn around to walk away, and he shot at me with the shotgun. It was a 1-shot 12 gauge, thank God. But it flew right past my head. I literally felt the buckshot go past my ear, and it hit a propane tank that had just been filled, like one of those massive ones, and it didn't blow up. And when that happened, his friends tackled him. His friends with the guns like, you fucking idiot. You could have killed us all, da da da. And they drag him back in the truck, and they take off. But like shit like that, bro, like too many things like that have happened to me, and I've experienced too much loss, too many dead friends, you know, lost so many jobs, so many places to live. Bro, I've had every pair of Jordans, gaming system. I've had all that shit when I was at the peak of my drug dealing and addict career, and lost it all a million times, bro. Like that shit happens enough times, bro. You don't ever want to go back. I mean, I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, once you do heroin, there's no other feeling like that ever. Like not sex, not nothing, no amount of money. But what comes with it is death, despair, dishonesty, hurt. You know what I'm saying? So you need to do more heroin to numb that shit. You know what I mean? And I just don't want to go back to that cycle. I have a homie who said that it's like dating a toxic girl that has really good sex. Like that's what it's like.
Most dangerous combo.
It's like she fucks all your friends, she steals from you, she gets you put in jail, but the sex is great. Like that's what heroin is. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go back. You know, and there's just fentanyl out there now, so you're gonna die if you do it anyway.
Yeah, now it's almost a different game.
Yeah.
The fentanyl shit scares me. It's everywhere.
Well, it's xylazine and I forget the other compound is, but xylazine is a horse tranquilizer. So when you see all these people bent over like zombies, like folded at the waist, it's actually the tranq. It's the horse tranquilizers that are in it. And that's what's killing people, because when you hit them with Narcan, the Narcan doesn't just stop the xylazine. So if you've taken too much xylazine, you're overdosing from that. Your heart's stopping from that. So that's why you have so many deaths from this shit. And the other thing is too, is like, it's not like it's being made in a lab by scientists. It's being made by like cartels and in China, and then they're shipping it through here through the open fucking border. You know what I'm saying? Like, and by the time you get it, it's probably been cut with more xylazine so they can make more money off of it. And you might get a whole bag, do the whole bag of fentanyl and not feel anything. But then you get to that little piece in the corner that's all fentanyl and you're done. You know what I mean? Like, and when you're an addict, at least an heroin addict, you do more and more and more to get that same feeling you first got when you started.
You got to chase the high.
Yeah, you got to chase that dragon, man. You know, I've seen so many people, bro. So my I'm not gonna say who it was, but one of my girlfriends, I watched her overdose probably 2 times. And the protocol is like, if you don't have Narcan, you stick an ice cube in their butt or their vagina.
What does that do?
Yeah, it like wakes them up because it's cold. They're like, oh, what is that? Like,
And
so
that'll
I've literally
pull them out of an OD?
Yeah, I put ice cubes in this girl to get her to wake up. And then she's like, why the fuck did you wake me up? And it's like, you were dying. Your lips are fucking purple, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they get mad at you. Like, if you wake someone up from people get pissed.
Oh, man, that's so crazy.
Yeah, bro. I've been Narcan before. Narcan, it's like you're being hit in the head with a hammer, because it, like, I don't know if it spikes your adrenaline or what it does, but it makes your heart pound in your body so you can feel your heartbeat in your head, and it's like a migraine, just bang, bang, bang. It's crazy, man.
What is that feeling like when you're coming out of it from the Narcan? Is
Horrible.
it like when you wake up?
The high is gone. And you feel sick. You feel dope sick too, because it blocks the receptors that uptake the opiate. So you're not high anymore. You feel dope sick because the dope's gone, and you have this like migraine pounding headache in your head.
But
so
when
you're
you
mad.
go out, is it like somebody knocked you out? Does it feel like you fell asleep?
You just fall asleep. It feels great.
So it feels like you're waking up from a dream in some sense?
Dude, have you ever done like a Vicodin or no?
No.
Don't ever do it. Don't ever. That's what started me on it. Doctors gave me Vicodin, Oxys, codeine cough syrup, I think Klonopin and Xanax, like, and then they took it all away, and I went to heroin. Well, actually, I started buying Oxys from a friend of mine. He ran out and had heroin, and I bought heroin and then went to that. I think I was like 21 or 20 when that happened. But it's like, bro, opiates it's an epidemic, bro. It's literally better than an orgasm, better than bro, I'm telling you, like, better than any feeling you'll ever have. But once you get that first one, you're chasing that same feeling every single time. And so you have to do more and more and more and more and more. And you build a tolerance, but your body can only take so much. And eventually you OD, or you get some stronger stuff and you OD. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a reason they're so popular.
Well, and if you use an opiate for longer than 2 days, you become physically dependent on it. Like, that's what they don't advertise when they hand you a bottle of Vicodin or a bottle of Percocet. They don't tell you that part, that if you do a Percocet for 2 days in a row, you're going to have a kick from it. You're going to feel horrible. It feels like your spine's being ripped out of your lower back, and you're achy all over, and your nose is running, and you might puke, and you can't sleep. You got restless legs, like, and you just feel miserable because all your endorphins are depleted, because it spikes your endorphins when you use that opiate. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It scares me for the kids out there, because, like, I love rap music. I love hip hop, but all these rappers nowadays are just talking about Percocets,
Oh, man.
Percocets, codeine, like, and they don't understand, like, that kids think that's cool, and you know, you can afford it, and you can afford the doctors, and you can afford, you know, the prescription, but kids do it. And the Percocets that are on the streets are mostly fentanyl now. They're pressed. You know what I mean? So these young kids are getting strung out on Percocets and thinking that's the thing, bro. And it's wild to me. It's crazy.
There was this kid that I met in college. I think he was but like a friend group. He was known or something. We're hanging out and we're smoking weed in my truck. It's a late like Friday night. And I remember he went on this rant for probably 15 minutes about how great Xanax was. I guess his dad had a prescription and he had been stealing pills for years, had built up an addiction to Xanax, and he was just going on about how great it was. And man, I wish I had some Xanax right now. And it's just the best feeling ever. And I remember thinking, this is insane. This is objectively insane. This kid's probably 19, maybe, and just so consumed with this. And this was maybe 2017. Like this was a few years ago. And it just, that moment stuck with me. It was just so weird to be in this situation. We're smoking weed. We're just hanging out, waiting to go out. And he's just going on this tangent about how much he loves Xanax.
How much do you know? Was he like an athlete or anything like that before?
No, just a kid.
Yeah.
Just an average kid.
This is my belief system now that I'm at where I'm at, is that especially as young men, we need to accomplish things. We need to conquer things. And if you don't do any of that in your high school career, or you don't go to college or start a business or whatever it is, then you will fall into some type of addiction. You will, whether it's women or porn or drugs or alcohol, because you've never had that feeling that comes from winning. And so me now, like, I appreciate that. Like, I like sparring a lot. Like, I box 3 times a week, and half the guys are younger than me and most of them I've trained. And so when I teach them something and then they hit me with it in the ring, I like that because it shows that I accomplished something. I taught them something. It works. You know what I mean? Like I get off on that kind of stuff, like accomplishing things now. But for men, I feel like we have to do that. And so if you haven't done that and you're watching your dad get strung out on Xanax and you're like, why is daddy not pay attention to me and not love me? And it's like, oh, he takes Xanax. I'm going to take a Xanax. And then you feel that. You're like, oh, this is the feeling I've been looking for my whole life. Because, bro, I did Xanax too. And Xanax is like, you take it, and I think it's like a fuck it drug. Your best friend could shoot himself in the head and you'd be like, peace, homie. Say hi to God for me. Like no emotion, no feeling.
You're just numb.
Numb. Completely numb. You know, opiates are similar, but, and like Xanax, I don't feel like it gives you like a feeling. It just numbs your feelings. Like it just like, I don't know.
Just dulls you.
It's kind of like alcohol, sort of like alcohol. And I think it's in the same category. I think it's like a nerve depressant or suppressant or something like that. But yeah, man. I know for me, bro, I didn't get put in sports when I was younger or anything like that. I did martial arts off and on for some years. I did wrestling a little bit in high school, but like I never really accomplished anything, you know? And I think I found that feeling in drugs. And also in the streets, like I found that camaraderie in the streets and like gang shit.
That family dynamic.
Yeah. My dad wasn't there. Like he didn't know I existed till I was like 11 or 10 or something like that. But he lived across the country in Atlanta. And so I was always like looking for like a mentor, like a not positive, but just a male role model. And bro, the people that I knew that I wanted to be like could fight. They had guns, they had girls, they had cars, they had drugs. You know what I'm saying? People wanted to be around them. People feared them. And so I gravitated toward that when I was younger. And I think it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous. Like even here in Humboldt, like that was in Humboldt County. You know what I mean? And back when I grew up, it was a little bit different. There were, I want to say there's more gangs, but there were more serious people that would come up here from like LA, the Bay, and set up shop here and sell dope or rob growers and shit like that. You know what I mean? Cause now it's pathetic. Like as far as that culture comes out here. Cause every single OG out here is on dope. Like they're a drug addict. They're not like a gangster. They're just a drug addict. You know what I mean? Doing shit for drugs. They're not like out here like doing gangster shit. You know what I mean? There's a couple. There's a couple maybe. I don't know. I haven't been out there in 7 years, but I'm assuming there's a couple. But it's crazy, bro. Like, going back to that kid with the Xanax, like, I bet you if he would have like won a championship, he wouldn't be looking for that feeling in Xanax. He'd be looking to win the next championship.
Or just had a goal
Yeah.
he was striving towards in some sense.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was in college, so he's working towards something, but it's a different feeling, you know?
Well, is he in college because that's what his family wants? Or is
Probably. I mean, I think he was, I don't know like his financial background or anything, but I would assume okay, at least
Yeah.
maybe lower middle class, somewhere in the middle class. He's going to, it was at OSU, so it was a decent school, decent state school. And just, I think that was the last time I ever saw him, but that stuck with me all these years. And I think you're right.
He might be a rapper now, bro. Might be the next Lil Xan.
Could be.
You know what I
Could
mean?
be.
It's crazy that Lil Xan is Lil Xan and he doesn't do Xanax anymore. Do you know that?
Yeah. I mean, the one that always gets me is Juice WRLD.
Yeah.
He got taken out. I mean, it's just so, there's part of it is the argument, can you be that creative and that skilled without doing something to kind of expand your consciousness in that way? But then what's the cost?
Look at Kanye. Eminem's still the GOAT, and I don't think he's using anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
but his music when he was,
that was fire.
It was different level.
Dark. It was
different
dark.
level.
Bro, I feel like my hate for my stepdad and my mom and my dad when I was like 16 was because of Eminem. I'm like, fuck you, mom. You know what I mean? Like in my bedroom listening to like, what is this Slim Shady LP full blast? Like I had a 12-inch subwoofer built into a box, hooked up to a car battery and a car stereo in my room. My mom hated it. But yeah, man. But I think that was the best. But it was the most like emotional Eminem. Like it was the most, it made you feel something. Like even if you weren't from 8 Mile, poor white kid living in a trailer,
You
getting
could
beat
relate.
up. You know what I mean? You could relate to it because it was just so much. He emoted. You know what I mean? He made you feel that emotion. You know what I mean? I feel like they don't make music like that anymore.
They don't.
Man. They
I mean,
really don't.
I kind of get upset when people say, oh, there's no good music anymore, because there definitely is.
Yeah.
But it's just different. There's just different music today than there was back then. Did you listen to his new drop? The new album?
No, I listened to the song with him, Baby Tron, and Big Sean. I listened to that song. I don't know if that's on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had, Eli and Wes.
Juice, yeah.
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 And all them. I had them on last night. That's who I was smoking the cigars with.
Last night?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
You had them on
yesterday
again?
afternoon. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I had them. It's not out yet. I got a couple that I got to put
Bro,
out.
I've been watching, like, I don't know if they call themselves City Hippie anymore.
Yeah, City Hippie.
They're still City Hippie?
No, I know that the group's still alive. I don't know who's in that rotation right now.
Because I remember it was like, what's his name? Starts with an A. Not Archie. God, I can't remember his name now. But it was him, Soul, Wes, Arif, and Eli was the producer, and then there was like, I want to say there's like 5 other dudes in it. It was a big group, and they came and I think they did 1 or 2 shows at my gym. It has to be like 5-6 years ago. But when I seen them perform, I was like, wow, these guys are like it. Like in Humble, there's not like a lot of like really, I don't want to say creative because everything is creative, but like I could see them in Hollywood. Like I could see them making it out of here and like, or being independent and making it in the industry. And like, as far as their visuals, their content, lyrically, like just everything. And Rowdy too. Rowdy's another kid that I think is like,
Yeah, I had him on.
fire, bro. Yeah. Yeah. His
He's an
lyrics are
interesting
crazy.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. We were in here smoking cigars. Oh, we were talking about the Eminem album a little bit. I thought it was good. I mean, some of it's corny. Some of it is just dated.
What do you feel like is corny about it?
He was talking about some of the cancel culture stuff and body positivity, and it just feels like it would have been more relevant a couple of years ago.
It's clickbait.
I don't know if it was clickbait. It almost feels like, when your parents finally catch on to the lingo, and it's like, okay, but we've already moved on. Like just differences in generations. Like he's kind of speaking on an issue that was relevant more so a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it would have had more impact back then. But he had there were some good songs that I liked on there too. I thought
Bro, I
Houdini
felt
was
like
cool.
that last night or Sunday when we did the podcast with James, because like we talked about a lot of the same stuff he talked about here, and we went into a little bit more detail, and I shared my experience with it and some of my opinions, but like I feel like all that stuff's like over. Like it's kind of already happened. You know what I mean? Like the same thing you're saying. Like, I don't know, man. But there's nothing wrong with like bringing light to it, you know? And I feel like, I don't just feel like, I know that like when you're in the industry, they tell you to talk about certain topics to get clicks. So he's saying shit to make people upset so he gets more views and people share it and talk about it, because there's no such thing as bad publicity. You know
Well,
what
and
I
to
mean?
be that guy and where you came from, I think part of the reason his music resonated so much more back then is just because he was still in it. It was still so raw.
Yeah.
And to maintain that level as you become so successful and so detached from where you once were, I think it's hard to maintain that
Yeah.
perspective. And maybe you shouldn't maintain that because you grow as an individual, but you just change.
Well, it's just like drill music. Like these drill rappers, it's so crazy to me that this shit is like what it is now. But excuse me, there's probably been hundreds of people that have been killed over drill music or put in prison or jail because they admitted to something on recording, and then they do investigate. Feds are like, oh, you did this on this date with this person?
Yeah, thanks.
You know what I mean? And then you're, fighting a RICO case. Like YSL, that's crazy. Like Young Thug and all them are still in jail. But these guys that are doing drill music, they get big, they make some money, and it's like, you should probably think about switching it up and moving neighborhoods and getting security. You know what I mean? But they're still out there doing the same shit. And it's, you can't do that, bro. Like TBH, bro, I've moved a couple times in the last 6 years, and I don't even want to live in the city limits anymore here because people see my car and they know where I live. And it's like, I don't want people to know where I live. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not because like of anybody that's in my current life, but like I lived a different lifestyle for years, and I don't want those people knowing where I live. You know what I mean? I don't even like people knowing where my gym is. You know?
I feel that way about this in some sense. I keep the
yeah.
location of this place pretty wrapped, except for obviously the guest that has to know how to get.
Well, you're
here, but-
in a good place. Like this is a really safe place that you're in. You know what I mean? This area.
and we're tucked away.
Yeah. I won't say what's next to it, but
Yeah,
it's safe.
yeah. We're
You know what I
pretty
mean?
okay here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just changes,
Yeah.
life changes.
So I want to ask a couple questions about the podcast. How are you, like, are you monetizing this?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. I mean, we're operating in the red, but
That's fine. Most businesses do. How long have you been doing it for?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years?
4 years.
How do you feel about it? Still excited?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way I feel about the gym with this. That it's almost something that I need to do in order to be a functional human now at this point.
Hell yeah.
I mean, you talked about how you feel like the gym saved your life in a lot of ways. I can relate to that. I think
Yeah.
just working out, and it doesn't even have to be the gym, but just working out, putting your body through something rigorous, go for a run, do something to kind of clear your head. And I feel like when I'm in here doing a podcast, talking with someone, it's kind of like a nice reset. It's
like
also
therapy.
a good way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure
Dig it,
you
man.
get that doing your podcast.
Sometimes. Dude, my studio is too small. Like, I'm realizing it now that I'm in here, I get a little claustrophobic in there. Like, I like the hour mark, I'm like, because I'm sitting in my studio, like, there's one door right there, then the guest is right here, and I'm like, the desk is like a wraparound desk, so I'm like in this little pocket, and I feel trapped a little bit. Like, even if it's a person I know and trust, I still feel trapped.
My other studio was in a garage that was significantly smaller. And so you could scoot your chair back and you start hitting the wall.
Yeah.
You kind of feel that.
That's how my
vibe.
studio is, bro.
Yeah.
And I jumped the gun on it. Like it was before I bought the new gym, and I had like $1,200, and I was like, dude, I want to do a podcast. And I wanted to get back into music too, because I did music like 12 years ago. No, it was like 12 years ago. And I sold like 480 mixtapes on the Plaza in 2 weeks. I went on like a little mini tour to like Vegas and the Bay Area, and like had a solid group of dudes I was doing music with. And like that's what I wanted to do. And I had a kid. I had my second daughter, and the girl I was with was like, pick music or pick me and your kid. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a dad. And that didn't work out. But I want to get back into it because I love music, and I still write, and I listen to music every day, and like It's just something I love. And so I was like, I'm gonna build a studio. So I built it. And then the gym happened. And I was like, I don't have any time to podcast or to like record music or get creative. And so I just, every day I go in there because my shoes are in there too. I have like a shoe shelf and my jackets on one side of it. And I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, oh fuck, like I want to do this so bad. You know what I mean? And I'm making time for it now. Like, but I feel like it's something you have to like schedule time, dedicate, to editing and all that good stuff. And I really want it set up like this because I've just been using my phone. I have like a beast cage with a filter lens on it or whatever that I use for the podcast. And I have a couple mics. But I like this with the lighting and everything. It looks great.
Well, shit, if you're ever looking to record somewhere else, I rent out this place.
How much?
$50 an hour.
It's not too
Comes
bad.
with all, I edit it though for you. So it's one-stop shop. You just got to show up.
Including the 50?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll clean up, I do basic editing for the 50. I'll clean up the audio and it comes with the footage and everything. That's been a nice little supplemental income for doing this. I've got another guy in here that he does pretty regular podcasts.
Shoot me your number before I leave and
yeah, we'll
lock that in. Yeah.
But it's just, you don't get this outside of doing a podcast.
No.
You don't get the conversation where we're not checking our phones, we're not doing something else, we're sitting here talking about who knows what, and we didn't even know each other when you walked in.
You know what? And I like watching other people's content. Let me steal one of these coffees. I'm gonna try it. Because you get to know people. Like I don't think I've ever like had a long conversation with Reef or Eli in person, but I follow them and I comment and I'm like watching their stuff and I feel like I know them. You know what I mean? Like they did a couple shows, I think 1 or 2 shows at my first gym, but we didn't really hang out. Like I was refereeing the fights that we were having at the gym, so I wasn't able to like socialize. But you watch someone long enough and you kind of start to get to know them a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's hard to be full of shit and do multiple podcasts. There's no longevity in that. People are going to start to sniff you out.
Yeah.
It's a good litmus test for who somebody really is. You listen to them talk long form.
It'd be cool. It probably has happened to people, but like they start a podcast and they realize they're full of shit and they're like, oh, I'm not who I say I am.
I've had that, I don't want to preface this, not with full of shit, but just trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
It's been interesting doing that through this process.
Who you're becoming.
Yeah. Who you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that all touches back into, I think the state that young guys are in today and the role model aspect and trying to figure out your shit in a chaotic world.
Yeah.
Just who you want to be.
It's a trip, man. Like being a man, I don't know how many male viewers you have, if you have more male or female, but
it's probably more men.
Don't get mad at me, ladies, when I say this, but like I was just talking to another boxer. He's a pro boxer, but we were sparring last night and we were talking about like single parent homes and like the statistics on single parent homes is like 80% of the prison population is from single mother homes. The majority of men who commit suicide, single mother homes. The majority of homeless, the majority of men with mental health issues are from single mother homes. And like I always say this, I've said this on my platforms before, like I'm not talking bad about single mothers. Like my mom raised me and my grandma helped and my grandpa and stuff. But it's a struggle to raise a man to be a man when you're a woman. You don't know what you know what I mean? Like, and
you need both parents.
You need both.
You need two.
You need the nature and nurture. You
as a man, as you grow up. I mean, I can remember my mom would take the wooden spoon to me, and then there's a point where you hit that age, and it's just not a fear anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when dad steps in.
Mine was at 13, 12 or 13 was the last time my mom spanked me.
That's usually when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she actually tried to swing a broom at me and I caught it and pushed her back into the bathroom and then took off. Cause she like didn't want me to go to like a friend's house or something. And I was like, I'm out. And then I started like taking a ratchet strap, because I lived in the second story of my grandparents' house at the time. And I took a ratchet strap and wrapped it around the bar in the window, and then shimmy down on the neighbor's fence and sneak out at night and shit. Like, and she catched me all the time, but she couldn't whoop me. You know what I mean? But you need your pops, bro. And like, cause like now that I'm older and I have a son, I have 2 daughters and a son, and I want him to be better than me. Like I want to be better than my dad. My dad's like bomb squad SWAT team for Atlanta Police Department. He's like won martial arts competitions, done bodybuilding competitions, like I want to be better than my dad, and I want my son to be better than me. And I feel like that should be the goal. And if you're a single mom and you hate your baby dad, and I mean, if he's a piece of shit, he's a piece of shit. Like if he's not doing shit with his life, I understand. But like, you got to find someone to replace that. You got to find it doesn't have to be another boyfriend or husband. It could be a coach. It could be a mentor for your son. They need that. They have to have that. And I never had that until I hit 30 and went to therapy. I met my therapist, Jim Hogue. Fucking awesome dude, man. I love that guy so much. He's like a dad to me, and like a big brother and like an uncle all in one. And I want what he has. I want to be like him when I'm older. Like he's got a private practice, sets his own wage, has multiple clients, helps people, helps kids, helps families, has a wife who's they've been happily married for like 40, 50 years. Got 4 sons. 2 are in the military, I want to say. One's at like some prestigious art school, and the other one's an adopted young man who has autism. So he's like done service. He's like helping, you know what I mean? Like just all the shit I want in a role model. And you know, you have to have something like that. And it took me till I was 30 to find that. You know what I'm saying, bro? And like I said, not to take anything away from my mom because she tried her hardest, but yeah, we need that, bro.
Yeah, I wonder how that's all going to play out with hookup culture nowadays.
Oh, it's fucking crazy. It's crazy, bro. And so when Jamila and I weren't together for like 8 months, I went on like a Tinder rampage. And the women that were the easiest were the most fucked up. I hate to hate, ladies, you know who you are, but they were like alcoholic, but like not alcoholic. Like their friends want to say you're an alcoholic, honey, but they don't because she's fun to hang out with until she gets too drunk. You know what I'm saying? Or she'll pay for the drinks, or like she has the car or whatever. Like you're free. If you have friends, you need to be honest with them and tell them they have a fucking problem. But like I'd end up at a chick's house and I'd realize like, fuck, I probably shouldn't have came here. You know what I mean? Like I realized like she's got some issues, or you know what I mean, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like and then, but it's fun in a sense, but like it's also like, you know, this isn't going to go anywhere because it isn't going to lead.
It's
to
almost
anything.
like doing drugs.
Yeah,
it's fun in the moment, and then as soon as it's over, you just think, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
what am I doing?
Yeah. And I brought chicks over too I had an apartment at the time with a roommate of mine. He lived upstairs, I lived downstairs, and this is kind of crazy to say, but I had like a rotation of chicks that all knew about each other. And then like one would come over on like a Friday, one would come over on a Saturday, and one would come over on like a Tuesday because she's the only one that had a day off during the week. And like, and they all knew about each other and like whatever. And it's like, I hate to say this, but you don't have any self-respect. And I didn't either, bro. Like I was the initiator of this whole process. And it's like, that's not going to lead to anything long-term. And the other thing is too, like I have I've had a lot of female clients in the past, and they'd be like, oh, you know, like I just hooked up with this guy and we said it's just going to be friends with benefits. And like, you know, that's all I want right now because I don't want a relationship. Like the girls are saying this, I don't want a relationship. And then the girl catches feelings and she wants a commitment. And the guy's like, no, you said it was just this.
You knew what it was going on.
Yeah. But she doesn't stop sleeping with him because she doesn't want to stop the attachment. And she's already invested. And the guy's like, no. And she's like, well, why won't he commit to me? And I'm like, because you're still giving him sex and he doesn't have to do anything for it. He just has to put up with you nagging about giving him a relationship. And it's like, you got to take that away. Like say, no, I want a commitment. If you're not willing to give me that, I'm going to move on and actually fucking move on. You know what I'm saying? Or just don't do it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got to have some self-respect there.
Yep.
And it's hard when you go into a situation like that and then they start catching feelings and it's like, what?
The one thing about my wife is when she came back, she knew I was messing with these other girls. And she just said, she was like, hey, I just want to be around you. I just want your time. And she's like, whatever you're willing to give. So it started like one day and then a couple days but she wasn't crazy. She was just chill. She wasn't like banging on like this one chick banging on my door. Like, I think it was like 2 a.m. or something like that. I know she's in there. Like, oh, I'm like, bruh, like you knew what it was when you came here. And, so cut her off and then, you know what I mean? Whatever. It slowly started cutting these chicks off because they started acting crazy. because my wife's intimidating. She's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So like, I understand. They know like she's the one, bro. She's the one. You know what I mean? And then eventually they just kind of like all fell off. And then I realized like she was it. Like she's not. We've never like had a yelling argument, like name calling, none of that shit, bro. She's so chill, and she became my peace, and she's just always been my peace. And I think, unsolicited advice for women out there, but if you be a man's peace, that can't be replaced. You know what I'm saying? There's no hot Instagram model or whatever that can replace that peace, and that's all men want. And once they realize that, then it's like, because bro, if you're trying to push someone into commitment and they say they're not ready for commitment, that's going to push them out of commitment. They're not going to want to commit to you if you're pushing them to change or do something they don't want to do. But if you just be there and just support them and I'm for you, babe, I'm for you, babe. And then eventually it's like you've been together for 5 years and you're like, and then he's like, I'm going to fucking marry her. Or his friends are like, you better marry her, bro. Like you better wife her up. You know what I'm saying? Like that'll just happen instead of trying to like force it. I don't know. I do know, actually. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah. Good advice.
Yeah.
And if you're chaotic, it's not going to work. You got to get out of there.
Yeah.
I know so many people that settle for chaotic relationships and it just never.
It's wild.
I mean, if you're fighting in public, that's the big one because it's just so blatantly obvious. If you guys are arguing out in public and this is a frequent occurrence, take that for what it is.
Yeah. Therapy, man. And it's sad too because we're actually watching, Jamil and I have been watching like I think 3 people go through separations that we're close to. And, you know, I always try to send them to my therapist and usually by then it's too late. And I follow this lady on Instagram who's like a holistic, spiritual life coach lady. And she said something super profound. She was like, you need to be in therapy individually by yourself, just day to day. Even if you don't feel like you need it or once a week or once a month or whatever, you need to be checking in with somebody and like kind of venting and processing things on your own. And then you find somebody else who's doing that too. You might see him crossing paths in the therapist's office and she gives you an eye and you give her an eye. Hey, you know what I mean? Whatever. And that'd be great. That's a great place to meet somebody is at therapy. That means they're trying to heal. Or the gym, they're trying to get better. Or the bank, they actually have their shit together. They have a bank account, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like the library. But you meet someone who's working on self-improvement and then you improve together, but you also continue to improve individually. You know what I mean? But she was saying that and I was like, that's super important. And I think that's one reason why Jamila and I have been together for 7 fucking years, bro. You know what I mean? Like, no, bro, she puts up with me. I'm a lot. I have a lot of shit going on. I'm always trying to like start the next thing and like, you know, create things and hustle and, but she's rode with me through the whole shit and not been like a naggy, just whatever. You know, if there's something she thinks that I need to work on, she's like, hey babe, can we work on this? It's not, you need to work on this. It's, hey babe, can we work on this? And I'm like, I guess, like, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like we should do this more. You know what I mean? Most of the time. Sometimes I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? But she's good at like being my counterpart, like being my yin to my yang or whatever. Going back to the single parent thing is I know a lot of people haven't had a 2-parent home and that's just like the hookup culture thing or whatever. And I think that ingrains that in people. Like you see how mom handles things, you see how dad handles things, you see how dad handles mom, you see how mom handles dad. And then you like develop that 2 parts of your personality and then you're able to be a better partner. Because if you just see your mom saying, your dad's a fucking piece of shit, he'll never da-da-da, and then she gets with the next guy who's just like him, because that's what she attracts, that's what she's talking about, and then that guy's a bad guy. So when you get in a relationship, you're expecting that. You're expecting him to be this, and you're trying to fix somebody that might not even be able to need to be fixed, or maybe they do need to be fixed, but they're not going to take it from you. And it just ends up, like you said, toxic, arguing in public, fighting, domestic violence, drug use, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
And you can have that even if you have 2 parents that are together.
Yeah.
If they're just, the mix is bad and you see them fighting all the time, or worst case, it gets abusive. And then you internalize that and think, oh, this is just what a relationship looks like.
Yeah.
And you start carrying that with you through other relationships.
Like the flavor of love, like those shows, bro, were so entertaining because it was so toxic.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Bro, with Flavor
Flavor of
Flav?
Love, no.
Oh, you gotta go back. You gotta watch that. Let me take this hoodie off. Bro, you gotta watch that. It's with Flavor Flav and like, I want to say like 20 chicks. Like I think this is pre-Instagram.
So back in the day.
Back in the day, I want to say it's like a spin-off kind of like Road Rules or what's the other MTV show?
I wonder if all those dating shows, because you know how Netflix has just a shit ton of them now. I wonder if all of that is playing into the relationship dynamics nowadays and what that's teaching people about how you should interact with other people and what dating should be, what casual dating looks like, and kind of the acceptance of all of that.
Yes. I think
I mean, we don't have a TV show anymore that shows a stable 2-parent household where both parents love each other and are happy. I mean, you can kind of look at Modern Family, I guess, but the dad's a dork in that.
What's Modern Family?
Yeah, see? Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch like shows.
I listen to podcasts. That's my thing nowadays.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
That's good.
That and music.
Yeah, that's good. I'll get better. Do you listen to Jeff Bedros Koulian? Bro, he's the one. He's the GOAT.
I'll have to check that out. That's a podcast?
Yeah. He wrote a book called Man Up. I've listened to the audio like 3 times. It's so convicting. It's like every time I listen to it, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to listen to this because it makes me want to like be better. And I'm like, it's a lot of work. And like he like, just to like in a nutshell, he like was a personal trainer, like living on the gym floor in the corner of the gym at night, training by day. He would like buy Diet Pepsi and put it in a blender with like cans of tuna and blend it up to drink it for his meals because he like didn't have any money, and like built his brand up. I think he started a gym, or he had a supplement company. He started a supplement company. He was like living in a garage at that time, and he like went almost bankrupt and was like eating the protein powder to like stay alive while he's like training like a madman. And then started a gym, but he like wasn't managing people right. He wasn't like doing all the things he needed to do. And then he started like getting anxiety attacks. He thought he was having heart attacks, and he was like I think he was taking like a Vicodin and like NyQuil at night to sleep because he had such bad anxiety, and just like went through all this shit and then like got it together and like manned up and like organized everything and like did it right. And then he created Fit Body Boot Camp, which is like a gym all across the country. I think it was like 600 locations, and like monetized that, and then like started selling shares. You could like buy in for like 30 grand or buy the brand for 30 grand so you could have your own Fit Body Boot Camp gym. And like he started these camps for men and young men. It's basically like SEALs training, like for kids or for adult men. And they'll kick you out too. Like if you don't pull your weight, they'll kick you out. But then he also has a podcast called the Bedros Koulian Show. He's fucking fire, bro. Every day he drops something with like some kind of knowledge, some kind of wisdom.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Alex Hormozy as you were going down that. He's a guy that similar kind of
He was before like Alex Hormozy started getting popping on social media, but you know, and there's a lot of guys like that. There's like why can't I think of his name right now? Military guy. God, you know who I'm talking about.
Not David Goggins.
Not David Goggins.
Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink. He's got a great podcast though. What is it? Hard White Underbelly.
Soft White Underbelly.
Soft White Underbelly. I like that one too.
That's an interesting show.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones out there. Oh, there's another one called Middle Ground. And it's like a warehouse, like an empty warehouse, and there's like, I want to say 4 stools on this side, 4 stools on this side.
Oh, I've seen some clips.
Yeah.
And they pose a question and then everyone like walks to where they fall.
Well, like half of the people are like liberals and Republicans, and are like Trump supporters and like BLM, or like gays and straights, or gays and like Christians, or like it's like 2 polar opposite groups, and then they ask a question, and the people that agree come up to the benches and they get to answer first or whatever, and then they kind of have like it's like a civil debate. It doesn't get like name-cally crazy. It just like they have like a good conversation, and sometimes people will convert and go to the other side like mid-podcast. That's dope. Yeah, that's a cool one. That's kind of what my intentions were on my podcast, but I'm so new to it, and you've probably experienced this where like you're going through the interview and you get excited and you start talking a little too much. I do that. Like you can tell right now, I'm freaking, you know.
But that's good for podcasting, especially
Yeah.
if you're the host and you can carry a conversation. You know.
Yeah.
The worst is when you have a guest and you're just trying to pull information out of them.
I haven't had that yet.
I've had a few.
I've only had 4 interviews. I dropped 1.
Man, I saw the one that you did with Kim Burrell.
Yeah.
Man.
What do you think about it?
When you said faggot,
I didn't say faggot.
You said faggot.
I did?
You said it, and I started dying.
But I was
laughing.
talking about it in conversation.
You were talking about, I think you said that you had been called that.
Yeah.
And so you said it, and I'm driving in my truck. That was today. That was earlier today. I was listening to this, and I'm dying laughing. I'm coming back from the gym. As soon as you said it.
I've been called it before.
I know, but I could just imagine Kim sitting there just white knuckling the chair like, what is happening? I was dying. That was an interesting conversation.
I need to rewatch that because I don't even remember saying it.
I was dying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that room.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting
But I've been called it, bro. So I can say that I've been called it. You know what I'm saying? Like James asked me yesterday if he could say the N-word because someone called him the N-word. And I was like, probably not gonna do that. Probably not a good idea. You know what I mean? But because he was speaking he was telling a story about how someone was like, you effing
James, this is the guy that
James
did the interview?
Harrison Graham, that you did an interview with him.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. James is also the name of the guy that does I'm Still Here, right?
Those that's James Carey.
Oh, that's who I thought you were talking about.
No,
yeah, I know James Carey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been on.
I didn't know I said the F word, bro.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Dying. I was dying just to, like, man, Kim. But that was, I mean, kudos to you. You stood your ground. You guys were talking about some trans issues.
Yeah.
And you stood your ground.
Well, bro, like I have employees that are trans. There's trans people, even kids at my gym, multiple. And years ago, I watched a documentary on some of the first trans people to ever get transitional surgery. I can't remember the name of the documentary. I gotta look it up. But it's like, I want to say it's like 30, 40 minutes. It's not a long documentary, but these people are old now. And this is like, I want to say late 70s or early 80s when they started doing it, the actual surgeries. And these people are mutilated. Like you can see it, their faces, because they got like face surgeries and stuff like that, breasts, augmentate, like everything you can think of. And the majority of them converted back to their original gender. And they're sitting there giving their testimonies on how messed up their bodies are now from the hormones, from the surgery. And I was telling James, like, when you cut a man's penis off and make a vagina, they have to dilate that every day for a year, sometimes longer. And even with the dilation, it can close up and become extremely painful and you have to have surgery again. And it's like, that is crazy. Like as an adult, do what you want to do with your body. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to keep getting tattoos. I'm going to keep, and I was telling James too, like I have tattoos I covered up from when I was 15, 16 years old that I thought I'm going to have this forever. And it was a shitty ass freaking, you know what I mean? Like I'll never get, you know what I mean? And, but when you're a kid, bro, like you shouldn't be able to make decisions like that change your body for the rest of your life. Cause bro, I went through so many different phases where I'm going to be a skateboarder. I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be a BMXer. I'm going to be a rollerblader. All these different things I went through that I was like, pause, I'm going to be pro at this. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then no, I did the next thing and then the next thing. It's like, I think it should be just like, you know, if you can't go to the military, you shouldn't be able to cut your penis off.
What made you want to do that podcast? And specifically that podcast with her?
With Katie and Kim?
Yeah.
So Katie came to the gym like November of 2022, I want to say, when we first got to that Humboldt CrossFit location. And she came in the office with her friend Maddie. And I didn't know she was trans or anything, but she said her name was Katie. So I was like, oh, whatever. And she told me, she's like, hey, I'm trans. I'm a boxer. Like, I'm an amateur boxer. I have 2 fights. I fought in Chicago. And I'm like, oh, cool. And like, I don't treat anybody any day. It doesn't matter what color you are, what you look like, whatever. But she basically just was really honest. And she was like, look, you know, I know this makes certain people uncomfortable. And I'm like, bro, we're not like, or sis, we're not like that. Like, this is a gym where we've got freaking Jehovah's Witnesses over here and Republicans and far left and atheists and trans people and black people and white people and Asian people. And we got cops here. We got fire department. We got EMTs, paramedics. We got every single different kind of, And everybody just comes here to get better. Like there's no bullshit, there's no drama, there's, you know what I mean? Like we're just trying to get better. And my big thing is like, if people do weird shit and like try to hate on people or whatever, you gotta go, bro. Like I'll give you a warning, but that's it. Like if you're gonna keep saying weird shit and like making people feel uncomfortable or treating people differently, like you can go over to Planet Fitness with that shit. See how long it lasts. And I told her that. I'm like, you know, I just am really big on like just building community based on fitness and health and wellness. That's it. I don't care about any of your outside issues, like what you do on your own time. Like none of that means anything to me. And we got into like a long conversation because she's a talker too. And she was telling me that like she doesn't believe that kids should be getting hormones or surgery. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah. And then I told her like, I agree. And this is why. And so that's where it started. That's where the conversation started. And she also told me she doesn't believe in competing against women because she's male to female. And when she said that, I was like, that's fire, because it's crazy watching these women who worked their whole lives to be Olympians get whooped by a biological male who's had the bone structure of a male their whole life, and then all of a sudden goes on hormones. And they're saying, oh, it's fair because they're on estrogen. It's like, no, you have the bone structure of a man.
You developed as a man.
Yeah. And it doesn't, like, bro, it doesn't matter how much estrogen you're on. Like, I've sparred Katie probably 200 times. She hits like a dude. You know, I think she's 6 foot. Like, she hits like a man, even though she's on estrogen. You know what I mean? And so conversation started there. And then we talked about her starting her own trans league. Because I was like, you know, to stop all the fighting, because I'm all solution based. I'm like, people are fighting over whether or not biological males who transition to females should compete in women's sports. Why don't you just make a trans league for each sport? And we're like, so he started talking about that. And then she actually found a trans league that it's really small, and she would have whooped everybody in that league, honestly. But
did she go fight in it?
No, because it's like not here. It's not in California. I forget what state it was in. But I actually talked to one of the fighters, and I asked her if she would fight Katie. She said yeah. And so we were like trying to set it up or whatever, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. But and I want to say Katie's like 42 now, so she's in the Masters League. So USA Boxing is what we're all. I can actually show you. USA Boxing is what we're all sanctioned underneath. So you get like a little passport. Where's the camera? A little passport like this, and it has like your photo, and like it'll have all your fights in it, and like who you've coached, and like this is a coaching one. But when you become a master is when you can opt into masters when you're 35, or you can wait till you're 40. When you're 40, you have to go into the masters. So masters is like, I want to say 40 and up. And so she's in the Masters League. But when you're in masters, it's really hard to find fights because there's not a lot of older people still fighting. And so it's just really hard to find her fights. It's been really tough. So I was thinking like the trans league would be the best. And so I wanted to have her on our podcast. The more I got to know her, she went through DOR, Department of Rehab, which is a program we use to get interns into our gym. And they pay 300 hours. They'll pay 300 hours for internship at our gym. So we don't have to pay them. They learn the craft. They'll pay for all your certifications. So we did that with Katie. I think she got 2 certifications. She did the 300 hours, and then we kept her on as an employee. And like through that whole process, I got to know her. We got really close. And I was like, I want to have you on the podcast. Like, I want to hear your story because it's something I'm really interested in, because the longer we hung out, the more I got more comfortable calling her she, her. Like I always did, but it was like easier for me to call her, that's Katie. And people would be like, hey, what's up with bro? And I'm like, that's sis. You know what I'm saying? Like I would like be like, hey man, like be respectful of her. You know what I'm saying? She works here. She's a boxer. You know, you know what I mean? Like, and people would like kind of joke about it. I'm like, no, dog, like seriously, like just, you know what I mean? Like whatever, you know? Cause bro, who am I to judge?
You're just being nice.
Yeah, I'm just being nice. You know what I mean? And she's one of the most respectful people I've ever met too. And she's not like coming in there like, this is me. Like, and I said that in the podcast, like I'm trans and you better use my pronouns. Or if somebody comes at me like, I'm like, fuck you, dog. You know what I mean? Fuck you, bro. You know what I mean? Like if someone comes at me like that, I'm going to be an asshole. But if they come at me like, hey, please call me she, her. And I'm like, all right, I got you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be an asshole about it. Cause I wouldn't want people call me Oreo or, you know what I mean? Like I want to be called what I want to be called. And so I was like, you know what, who would be a great person to have on the, and like weeks before that, there was a drag show at Jefferson Elementary School. And my uncle, I don't know if you heard of Stephen Parr.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
my
the guy
uncle.
that did the butt porker?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah. And like him and James and Cornelius are all really good friends, and they're always fired up about some shit. They're always, and they've been there. My Uncle Steve's been here his whole life, and he grew up in Fieldbrook on a farm, and he's done a lot, man. And he gave me a job when nobody would give me a job back when I was just getting clean the first time. And he's a good dude. Everybody thinks he's racist and shit, bro, and he's not. He's just doesn't give a fuck about your feelings. Like, if you say something makes you hurt, he's gonna be like, oh, don't be a pussy. You know what I mean? That's just him. Like, get over it. That's him. If you don't like it, stay away from him. You know what I mean? Like, and I like that. I like it when people are real with me and like can poke fun. You can make fun of yourself a little bit. Like, because I don't take myself too seriously. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you can't. Life's too short. Anyway, so they hit me up and they're like, hey, do you know? Because they know that I think that kids shouldn't be exposed to this shit. They shouldn't. They know that. And they're like, are you going? And I'm like, no, bro, I don't want the drama. Like, I know what it's going to be if I go, like, and I'll get pissed and I'll probably say some shit that'll affect the business or whatever. And they're like, well, we're going to go, but we're not going to protest. We're just going to go and observe, you know what I mean? And see what happens. And so they did, they went and they sent me a bunch of, and I called Kim and I was like, hey, do you know about this? She's like, yeah. She's like, there's not going to be any nudity or anything. She's like, I'm not going. And I was like, well, what do you think about it? And she's like, I think they should just, do what they want to do. And as long as they're not like exposing themselves in front of kids, it'll be fine. And she was super sweet. Like, Kim's always been sweet to me. She's a nice lady. And just to give her a shout out too, like, I still got love for Kim. I still like her. I still consider us friends. Like, when I was living in Devil's Playground, she was down there with, I think, IHHS, like handing out socks and toothbrushes and like giving us actually doing something, not just giving us shit, but giving us forms to get like housing and stuff like that, like helping people get into a place and like in boots to the ground type shit. So I got respect for her for that. And she sponsored one of our fighters too. She like gave us $350 to help him get his travel fees to make it down to a fight. She's a good person. And so we talked about that, and then the drag show happened, and my Uncle Steve and James were sending me videos, and I'm like, what the fuck? There's like, and I thought it was a trans person, but I guess it was a woman, and there was some crazy shit. Like, they sent me other stuff of trans people doing stuff too, but this one woman was in like this super skin tight black dress with slits like up past her waist, so you could see everything. You could see her thong, all that, and I thought she was trans. And she's like doing handstands. So her ass is out, cheeks clapping, twerking in front of kids. Kids are throwing dollars and shit. And I'm like, this is a strip club for kids at a fucking school, bro. Like, and so I'm fired up. I'm just like, what the fuck? So when that happened, I was like, okay, like, Katie, what do you think about this? She's like, that's fucking crazy. Like, because Katie's a convict. She's an ex-con. She went to prison for a year, I think in Louisiana and Chicago. So she has that convict code where you don't fuck with kids. You don't. You get killed.
Men's
if you do
prison
that shit.
or female?
Men's prison. Yeah. Because this is before they were
starting to cross pollinate.
Housing trans people or trans women into male prison or vice versa. So she was like, that's fucking crazy. That's got to stop. And so I was like, let's do the podcast. Let's talk about these issues. Let's talk about your opinions on it. She was super nervous. She's like, I have friends like in Chicago that are going to be mad. And I'm like, but it's good dialogue. We need to have this. You believe this. I believe this. We need to talk about it in like a controlled, safe setting. And she's like, all right, let's fucking do it. So I called Kim and I was like, hey, I'm doing a podcast interview with one of our amateur boxers who's a trans woman. I'd like you to come on. And so she came on, and I didn't really know where Kim stood on the trans issues as far as kids go. I didn't know that. But I'm glad it went the way it did, because it showed people like what our mayor believes, and she thinks kids should have surgery and steroids and shit, like, which is wild. But she could never answer my question the whole time. She couldn't tell me about the drag shows at schools. I kept saying, what's the point? Like, what's the point of bringing a drag show to a kid's school or having a drag queen read story time to kids? Like, it's so confusing for kids. And she couldn't answer the question. You know what I mean? And she said things like, "Oh, are you victim blaming and shit?" And I'm like, "What do you mean victim blaming?" And like I said, I was telling her like, there's trans people like Katie who don't want this shit and don't represent this. So when people go at trans people, Katie's in the crosshairs and she doesn't have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? And I told James yesterday or Sunday, I was like, I don't think it's all trans people or all LGBTQ people that are the problem with this situation, like pushing stuff onto kids and indoctrinating kids and pushing kids into getting surgeries and stuff like that, or hormones. But it's a small group of that group that are doing it. And it's concerning to me, especially if they don't have kids. Like if you don't have kids and you're not a parent, bro, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like I don't want my kids going to public school and having a person who's dressed in drag reading a story to them. Like get a fucking doctor in there, get a firefighter or a cop.
Or have the teacher do it. Man. Like there's no logic behind, if it's education, like what, you know what I mean? And I did say in the podcast, like she was like, well, how would you feel about Katie reading to kids? And I was like, I probably should have said no, because I was thinking no. But I said, I can't argue with that because I know Katie, but I know her. Like she's around my kids and she's around other kids at the gym and she's not a fucking pervert. You know what I mean? Like I know her, but like these random drag queens, like that you don't have a relationship with and you know what I mean? You don't know their background. You're just letting them into schools because whatever, you want to be progressive. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, are you doing background checks on these people? No, guarantee they're not. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make sense. Like, and bro, to be honest, I think every person who's involved in youth, anything with kids needs to have a full background check, needs to have the same screening that cops do when they become cops. Like when you become a USA boxing coach and you get your pass book, you have to do an entire eval. That's like a situational awareness. Like, for example, it's like Mike and Bob, you guys are on a trip to a championship match, and all the young men have hotel rooms. They're paired up by twos, and Mike and Bob sneak out and go to a party. Bob gets too drunk. Mike drives Bob home, or they take an Uber home or whatever, or to the hotel, and Mike helps Bob get undressed and get into bed. And then Mike starts having sex with Bob. And then the next day, Bob wakes up and his butt hurts. And Bob comes to you and says, "Hey, I think Mike raped me in my sleep or when I was passed out." Do you call the cops? Do you call the parents? Or do you call Safe Sport, which is the company that does the thing or whatever? And it's always call the cops. Call the fucking cops, notify Safe Sport, and let the cops notify the parents. And there's like different questions like that, but it's like, it gets way more detailed. There's like videos. It took me like a while to complete the certification because it was really hard to read that kind of stuff and to watch the kind of videos. But everybody should have to do that. If you're working with kids, you should have to do some type of like psychological, moral. Just some check so that we know you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard listening to parts of it just because, I could have told you Kim's perspective without ever actually hearing her talk, because it's a cult. That's another cult like CrossFit. It's an ideological cult, and people don't want to actually look into it or understand the issue. They just hear, "Oh, you're against this, but these people are just doing what they want to do. Why are you against that?
Yeah.
What's the problem here? Why can't people get dressed up in drag and read to kids? What's the problem with that?" She's great. I like.
What's the point of it?
I've had Kim on.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Oh, you had her on here?
Yeah, I had her on the podcast.
Did you post it?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta look it up.
It's an older one from the other studio. She's great, super nice, but listening to her talk about that was a little painful for me. Because it's just, and this is a gripe with myself too. When you have someone who's talking on an issue that they don't understand, you're almost screaming it, in your headphones, screaming, thinking, "Why are you talking about this? You don't know what you're talking about." And I've been there. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I have no shortage of podcasts where I've done that, but you just buy into the cult. You buy into the cult. And it's a compassion cult, which is the most dangerous kind.
Yeah.
Just being compassionate.
But what do they call it? Virtue signaling?
Yeah.
Virtue
and she's
signaling.
the mayor.
Yeah.
She can't, I assume that that's how she really feels. But even if it wasn't, I don't think that she could be honest about it.
And I think compassion is good. Like going back to the drug addict thing, and
it's just too much compassion.
Yeah.
We're almost
enabling
the people. Yeah. That's what it is.
Even Katie said in that podcast that the psychological diagnosis for trans is what's it called? Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought.
Gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria in the DSM-4. The DSM-5 is different now. They changed it to accommodate for the progression or whatever. But you know, multiple personality disorder, gender dysphoria, it's a real thing. And I've seen people firsthand go through it. I'm not going to say names, but I've seen people take their estrogen and feel like shit for 2 days, and then they finally balance out, and they're not mentally right during that time. I've seen people take their testosterone and, you know, their bone structure can't take the muscle mass that they're putting on. So their bones hurt. They're aching all the time. You know what I mean? For women that take testosterone, you know what I mean? There's so many health risks, and they're not talking about this stuff. And I'm positive, absolutely, I haven't done research on it, but I'm absolutely positive the doctors aren't like, hey, you might experience this, this, and this.
They're not.
No, they're just like, oh, you want this? Let's get it for you. Especially the surgery, because they're getting paid for it.
Well, the crazy thing that always trips me out is when I've had a number of guests come on to talk about this, is when they say, oh, hormones for kids, it's just a pause button. There's no long-term damage. There's no damage at all. It's like pressing a pause button. And if they want to stop it, then they just continue the natural progression that their body would undergo. It's not.
No.
And nobody wants to talk about that. I had an individual who was taking hormones to become a girl. It was a guy, and was adamant that there's no downsides. There's no long-term effects. There's no issues. It's a pause button. Was adamant that her doctor had told her this. She had sought treatment, and it's just blatantly false.
Yeah. But dude, any bodybuilder, like I did TRT for years. I did a little bit of other shit too, but like I did TRT for years, and you have to PCT. And there's like, bro,
what is PCT?
Look at my head, bro. I'm bald. Like this fucking shit went all the way back from testosterone use.
Well, what is PCT?
Post-cycle therapy. So you're supposed to cycle off and on. You're supposed to go on for like 6 weeks to 6 months, however long your cycle is going to be for whatever you're trying to do. And then you post-cycle therapy off so your body so your nuts can blow back up. Post-cycle therapy will blow your nuts back up and make your body produce testosterone naturally. So if you do want to come off of steroids or whatever you want to call it, hormone block, whatever, all that shit, you have to do the PCT to come off. And they're not giving people PCT. They're not telling, because, and this is the reason why, is because steroid use is mad science. It's literally taking cancer drugs for women when you're a male, which is Clomid, that tricks your body into producing testosterone again, or tricks your nuts into blowing up again, or HCG, which is the hormone women produce when they're pregnant. You take a shot of HCG once a day for however long to make your nuts start producing testosterone, or Nolvadex. There's different PCTs, or you can take them all at once. But you have to do that. You have to do that to make your body produce the normal hormones. And there's still a chance that your body won't. Like my first time ever, I think it was 2020 or 2021. I think it was 2020 because it's 4 years. It was the first time I ever did steroids, and it was bro science. I was 145 pounds, shredded, like way better shape than I am now. And this is another thing that I say, like steroids will fuck your body up if you don't do them correctly. And I didn't do them correctly. Like I just my buddy gave me Tren, Deca, and testosterone. You're not supposed to take Tren and Deca together. It's a bulk or in a cut. I mean, you could take Tren on a cut or on a bulk if you want to. There's different kinds of Tren. So I'm taking 3 things, 1 unit in each one, so a gram of each. And I felt fucking great. Like I felt like I was 16 again, and I was fucking like a rabbit. And I could go and train for 2.5 hours twice a day if I wanted to. I could eat anything I wanted to. I got up to like 176 point something, and I'd never been over 165. So I put on a decent amount of muscle. But then when I started reading about the side effects of all this shit I'm taking. I started researching after the fact. And I'm like, why is my hair falling out? Why am I covered in acne on my back? Like, I'm sweating super bad. Like my cardio is trash. I couldn't spar for like longer than 2 minutes. Like all these things were happening. And I'm like, oh, like Tren is literally melting my insides. Like that's what's happening. It's like killing me. And so I got off everything and didn't do PCT because I didn't know about it. And I was depressed and couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. And so I went back on just testosterone for a little while. And then I started researching PCT, and I was dating a nurse at the time, and she got me some Clomid and did the Clomid, and I think Nolvadex too. And then my nuts blew back up because your nuts shrink. Your dick doesn't shrink, your nuts shrink. And came off, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to go back on. And I lost some muscle, and I was like, didn't have the energy. And I'm like, fuck it. So I went on TRT. I think I did a couple more cycles of DECA, and I got up to like 189 point something. And I was fucking huge, bro. Like I'm 165 right now. My shoulders were like out to here. Like I was massive. And once again, I couldn't breathe, couldn't spar. You know what I mean? Just couldn't do the things I wanted to do. And so I got off, and I'd just been on TRT for a time. And then I got off TRT a couple times, cycled off, and then cycled back on, and I got off. And yeah, but it's crazy what it does to your body. It's addicting too. It's not addicting like drugs. It's addicting because you get the results. And this is another thing too about steroids. You can't just do steroids and not train hard. You have to train harder because it gives you the ability to train harder. So you have to train harder to get the mass and eat more. But yeah, kids shouldn't be fucking with that shit, bro. They should not. Like, it's just it's a trip to me that parents, because now I don't know if California is one of the states, but there's certain states where if you don't put your kids on hormones and they want to be, they'll take your kids. Like CWS will come and take your kids and put them in a place where you don't know where they're at, like a YSB youth shelter or whatever, and put them on steroids, which is fucking insane to me, bro.
And let them have the surgery. The surgery one is so crazy. We acknowledge, I mean, the simplest one is we don't let kids get tattoos, but we're willing to let them mutilate their body. But they know, at 12 years old, they know that this is real and this is how they feel, because kids just know. So we're going to let them do it.
Yep. Yeah, man.
We've lost common sense, which is so radicalizing to me as a young man, that adults have just lost common sense, and it's percolating down throughout everything.
Well, not all of us.
No, but a vocal portion.
Well, and the other thing is too, trans people are like 1%.
If that.
Of the population. I think it's like 1% of the population in the United States. I don't know. The rest of the world, I don't know. Like probably Thailand. But the fact that we're changing everything for such a small group of people and pushing, like if it's you, I don't even like to say this out loud, but just to play devil's advocate or compromise a bit. If it's your kid and you're a trans person, do whatever. And your kid wants to whatever. But like pushing it on other people's kids in schools and pushing the propaganda and whatnot is like way out. Like, and I said this with James too, like as far as the pronouns thing goes, making it illegal or a hate crime for you to not address somebody by their pronouns. The N-word isn't illegal. Like trans people weren't put in slavery. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's start there first. And I don't even think that should be illegal,
I was going to
bro.
say, I don't know that should be illegal, but I get what you're saying.
I don't know, bro. I'm just like trying to like make sense or like let people know like, hey man, this is kind of crazy.
Well, if you're 18, do whatever you want to do. Society has deemed you an adult at 18. Do whatever you want to do. At 12, 14.
Younger than 12. I have a friend who is trans. He's 15 now. But he got the implant put in his arm, I think at 11. Like it's like a hormone or a puberty blocker implant in his arm. And he's on testosterone. And like, that's a kid. And like, dude, that's my boy. Like, that's my homie. Like, I'm not going to go into details, but like, that's my dog. And, but I don't think that it should happen that young. You know, I think they should be at least 18, bro. And the other thing too is like, Medi-Cal will pay for this. They'll pay for the surgeries. And Medi-Cal isn't free. Taxpayers pay for that. You know, it's just wild. It's wild, man. Yeah. And I said this with James on the podcast on Sunday that like, I've met a lot of people I have really close friends. My first client ever was a gay man. A lot of friends who are gay or trans, and majority of them have told me that they were molested as a child. And so that's trauma-bound identity. Some people are bound to their trauma. And so and I know this because I know people that went to prison and got raped and came out and they're gay now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that became their identity in prison, and it was just like, this is who I am now, and I'll never be a man anymore because I was somebody's bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's who they are on the outside now. And I think that the most important thing for people who are having these feelings is to get counseling and psychological help and go through the correct channels, and not a therapist that's like, yeah, you should go get your penis chopped off, or what, you know what I mean? Like a therapist who's like, okay, let's find out where the trauma is from and try to help you through that trauma. Ketamine therapy, dude, microdosing. I have a buddy who's doing ketamine therapy right now, and he's like, I should have done this years ago for PTSD because he was in the military. And, you know, I mean, I can't imagine being raped or molested. Like, I can't imagine. Like, I got my virginity taken when I was like 9 by an 11-year-old girl.
Jesus, that's young.
My neighbor, bro. She talked me into the closet with a box of Lucky Charms. Yeah.
Fuck.
And I'm positive that someone molested her because she knew what she was doing, bro.
There's no way at 11.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I like literally remember it like it was yesterday. And it went on for some, and I guess that was some molestation. I guess I was happy to participate.
Isn't that funny how it's different for guys,
yeah,
versus girls?
Yeah, I think it's because we have testosterone. We're fucking horny, bro. Like,
and guys don't care. You hear about a teacher having sex with one of her students,
and you're like, fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, you're thinking, man, why weren't there any hot teachers that did that when I was at
There
school?
was one. Oh, she didn't molest me or anything, but she was hot. And I swear to God, she was flirting with me, bro. Like for a long time. Like, I'd stay after school.
Switch it. Now it's a dude.
Oh yeah, if it's a dude with a young girl, bro, that's fucking
chop his balls off.
I think it's because it's penetration.
Yeah, that could be.
Like you're inside, you know what I mean? And it's like, girls are just good. Like, they're just good. They're pure, you know, like a little girl, bro, compared to like, you know,
some fat 40-year-old balding.
Because, bro, I guarantee the reason why these women teachers got caught with boys is because he went and told his friends.
Oh yeah,
I fucked Mrs. Such and Such, fucking good ass, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, what? Let me get some, whatever. And then they tell their friend, and their fucking parents overhear him or something, and the teacher goes to prison. I don't know.
The molestation thing is so scary, and I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole, but I came across a statistic. I don't even want to say it because I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a high statistic that some percentage of, and I think it was with men, gay men, were molested as a child.
I saw that too. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's concerning because we know that, you know, as you're developing, your sexuality is kind of all over the place. And if you have an interaction like that where someone molests you, an older man molests you.
I read, I don't know if it was the same one, but I read one like that, and it was saying that it's usually not the father. It's like a mom's boyfriend or an uncle or like somebody, you know what I mean? Somebody else. And maybe it was a podcast, but they were saying that like the mom didn't believe them or something, or like hid it or denied it, and they didn't like press charges or something like that. Like, it was like same thing going back to like hookup culture and not having a 2-parent home and like all that kind of stuff is like, I think it stems from all of that. I think it's all part of the.
But that's something people should want to look into. If kids are being molested and it's not an attack on gay people, if someone would try to frame it like that, but the idea that, you know, children are being hurt and skewed into this ideology that way is terrifying.
It's I think it might have been my therapist that said it, but trauma-bound addiction. Like, something traumatic happened to you and you become addicted to it. Did you watch Baby Reindeer?
Oh man. I stopped after the episode where it got really crazy.
Where the guy tries to like finger him?
No, where he actually does rape him.
Yeah.
He's drugged out. I stopped after that one.
Bro,
it just got too, it was,
I watched that episode. Tell you the rest. Painful. You didn't finish it.
I haven't finished it. You can spoil it for me.
Okay, spoiler alert. Yeah. If you watch Baby Reindeer, just tune out for like 2 seconds. Or if you haven't watched it. So he goes back to that guy after he rapes him. Like, starts going back regularly and like liking it, like participating in it. So just going back to that whole trauma-bound addiction.
I tried to get that guy on the podcast. That guy that is the actor in that wrote that.
He wrote that?
Yeah.
That's a crazy.
He's actually a comedian and an actor in real life. So it's kind of funny that he's trying to be a comedian in that. Yeah.
Bro, that type of writing is a trip, dude. Like, the
First
whole.
off, why would you write
Dude,
when you're the actor,
you gotta
why
finish
would
it.
you want that?
Bro, you gotta finish it because at the end is the craziest twist.
I'll finish it, but it got so dark. Watching that, yeah, I don't like watching shit like that. I just feel like it's bad energy.
It is.
And it's hot. Man, watch it.
But it's real, bro. Shit like that really happens.
It does happen, but you don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
You don't want to
Dude,
go
when
to
I
that
did
place.
when I did the USA Boxing Psych Eval thing, the sport safe certification, that's what it was like. When I was reading it, I was like, fuck. Like, the reason why this is in here is this has happened to kids. Like, that's why it's here. That's why they're showing me this. To let me know that, like, another coach might be diddling a freaking little boy and I have to confront the situation. Like, that's real. It happens. You know? Yeah, man. Have you ever watched Hannibal, the show?
No.
That one's a good one, too.
I'll check that out.
Because they say in that show, the writing's really good. The dialogue is fire. The storyline is fire. But, excuse me, there's like a Fed, I think it's a Fed or CIA, and she's saying that psychopaths and sociopaths like to linger in the higher up positions, like politicians, journalists, cops, feds, psychologists. They like to hang out in those fields because they're giving the perception that they're helping, but they're really like preying on people and they're learning people. You know what I'm saying? They're learning about people and how to manipulate them. And
you can groom from a position of power like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That was the big thing with that guy from Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider.
Yeah, I didn't watch the documentary. I need to watch it.
I saw a clip or a couple clips from the Drake Bell episode. It was fucking dark.
Well, there's been people that have been speaking up against that kind of stuff in Hollywood. What's the kid who played in, was it 21 Jump Street? Or, I can't remember. But he was talking about on Oprah or The View. Or maybe
I can't
it was
stand
Ellen.
The View, man.
It might have been Ellen. It was one of those shows, and he was like talking about it, and they're like, "So what are you saying that all like? Why are you saying this stuff?" And like trying to get him to stop, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "I was raped, like I was molested, like multiple times by multiple people that like are your directors." You know what I mean? Like trying to say like, "Hey, this is happening like now in real time, like protect the kids," and they're just like shutting him down. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
People don't want to accept that it's real, and you can't solve a problem if you don't even want to acknowledge it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a trip, dude. It's well, I can't remember what you said earlier, how you worded it, but you were talking about like people, you're talking about the trans thing and like people just like accepting that like as normal or whatever, or like people are like asleep to it. And it's like, I'm baffled by it, bro. Like I'm baffled by, because I'm neurodivergent, so I obsess on things. I'll hyper focus on one thing for a super long amount of time until I like master it or like learn everything about it, and then I'll get bored of it and move on to the next thing. And I don't store information as well as some people that are neurodivergent. Like Conrad, my old best friend, he could recite any book, any literature, any bill that was passed that he was interested in. He could tell you everything about it. Cryptocurrency. He's the one that got me into crypto mining, and we got all these like 100 and something crypto miners, and we're mining crypto, and he can explain everything, how exactly everything worked. But my brain doesn't work like that, but I'm pretty good at holding information. But with the oh God, I lost my train of thought again. Shit. What were we just talking about?
Something about it was the trans issue, how I phrased something. You were going on, you don't understand how people are like asleep towards this issue.
Oh God, what was it? Damn.
Kind of like the cults.
Man,
ideological capture.
I lost
It'll come back.
It'll come back. Oh, the bills.
Here we go. We're back.
Politics. So when politics, people watch the news, bro. And I wish people would stop watching the news because it is so incorrect. Like when Trump would say fake news, he was like dead on. Like if you just saw, he got shot the other day, bro. They tried to assassinate whoever it was, whether it was a hoax or I don't know how it could be a hoax when the shooter was killed and somebody else was shot. Like I think he was a firefighter, got killed, and a couple people were wounded or some shit. Like there's no way that was a hoax. Like yeah, sure, it might have been set up by the other party, but I don't think Trump knew what was happening. I don't think he would have put his head on it. You know what I mean? Because if he hadn't turned his head, it would have gone right through his head. You know what I mean? But the news stations, they were posting like Trump gets pulled off podium, like
Loud noise.
Yeah, loud noise.
scares
Yeah,
Trump.
Secret Service pulls him off. They don't say Trump was, there was an attempted assassination on our former president. They don't say that, which is what the article should have been. That's fake news, bro. That's trying to make people be like, oh, you know, Trump is getting old. He fell like Biden or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's fake news, bro. It's not giving the real story. And there's so much of that. I stopped watching news years ago. Like, I watch like channels that I follow, like on Instagram or on YouTube. Like, I'll get my news from BitChute. BitChute is a really good source because it's a free speech platform. You can say whatever you want or post whatever you want. And there's like legitimate news stations that post their stuff on there that aren't mainstream. And I started reading bills years ago, like what president is trying to pass what bill or what governor. And it's hard. It's tedious to read the bills because there's a lot of like legal jargon because it's all maritime law. So like the words they use are hard to understand. But when you read them and then you realize, oh, they're trying to take away this from us. They're labeling it as this, like the CARES Act or whatever act or whatever bill, and it sounds like it serves us. But then you read the fine print and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to, and I have to pay this much more taxes for this to be a thing. So I'm paying for something I don't even really believe in. You know what I mean? They label it as something it's not. And when I started reading the bills, I started realizing that they use this two-party system, Democrats and Republicans, because it's these groups that we've been boxed into. And if you're a Democrat, I can't agree with you on anything. If you're a Republican, I can't agree with you on anything. I have to agree fully on this. And it's like, that's not true. You know what I mean? Like, I was raised Republican, became a Democrat. And then around the time of Obama, I started going back to the right and more conservative values and views because I realized what Obama was trying to do. People don't realize Obama built more of the wall than Trump did. Bush got the funding for it. Then Obama got more funding for it. You know what I'm saying? Trump was just finishing the job. And it was to protect us from drugs. And what he said, like like I always tell people, they're like, Trump's a racist. And I'm like, okay, YouTube, Trump makes racist statement and find me a clip of him making a racist statement. The only thing he ever said was talking about MS-13. And he said they're rapists and drug dealers and murderers. And they clipped that and made it and tried to make it say he was saying all Mexican people. And so he lost the Mexican vote because of that. But he was talking about a gang that's a satanic gang that sacrifices people. You know, there's a documentary on Vice about MS-13. And El Salvador, bro, they're killing it. They locked everybody up. Every single gang member, they locked them up. And they're making them work for the country to build infrastructure and plant plants and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, if we just did that here, and if we are going to bring, if we are going to open the borders, there needs to be a process. You know what I'm saying? They need to come in. You say, okay, you're going to stay in this facility that's built for them. You're going to get political asylum, but you have to prove that you need a political asylum, full background check, can't have a criminal record. You know what I'm saying? But when you're just letting in people and it's like the other countries are like, yeah, take all our rapists, and it's not, and this is the other thing. I want to make sure I make this clear. I think Mexican people should be let over first if they're going to open the borders because Texas, New Mexico, California was Mexico. Like, they've been here longest. They've been trying to get in longest. They've had to get visas and green cards, and they should be let in first, women and children first, and then military age men. And you know what I'm saying? If they pass the procedures, bro. Like, but to just let everybody in, bro. And Trump was saying they're gonna take black jobs and Mexican jobs, and people are like, what is that? What's a black job? What's a Mexican job? And I watched do you watch Valuetainment?
Yeah.
He posted.
I don't, but I catch clips from them.
Yeah, I forget the dude's name.
Patrick Bet-David.
Patrick Bet-David. Yeah, he posted like what a black job is, and it's like construction, like working class, middle class, blue collar jobs, and that's what he's saying. Like, cheaper labor, people that are willing to work for cheaper. You know what I'm saying? And it is. It's crazy to think what our country's going to be in like 4 years.
It's crazy to think what it is now.
Yeah.
Where you have these people who are coming across illegally and you're putting them up in 5-star hotels and paying them and providing
$1,500 a
3
month.
meals a day.
Yeah.
And yet we can't take care of our own populace.
Dude, we got veterans on the street that are struggling to get health care that fought for this country. Like, why is that? Why is that still happening? We could end homelessness or help homelessness for $2 billion. We could give everybody housing for $2 billion. I think it's in the state of California. We've sent hundreds of billions over to Ukraine. And that's all our taxpayers' dollars. That's all our money. That's why the capital gains taxes in California with capital gains and income taxes like 54% now. Like, it's maddening. And dude, I'm a capitalist 100% because I own a business and I don't even make any money, bro. Like, I don't make a profit every month. I've been in business for 6 years and I'm still not making a profit in California. But if I was in like Texas or Georgia, I'd be killing it. You know what I mean? I'd have a fucking mansion right now.
Well, that's why everybody's leaving California.
Yeah, 100%. You know,
it's crazy.
Trump's an immigrant. His family's an immigrant. They're immigrants. I think was his dad or his grandpa, you know? So if anybody knows, it's someone whose family is immigrants. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know I know the solution, but I'm not going to say it on here because I don't want people to get
What's
mad
the
at me.
solution?
Vote for Trump 2024.
It's hard not to vote for the guy after he got shot.
Yeah, bro. And he got charged with felonies for misdemeanor charges. Like, that shit's wild. Like, if that's not the current administration using the legal system against their opponent, I don't know what is. This has never been done before. This has never happened. The last assassination was JFK, and he was trying to make real change. Like, if that's not similar, bro, I don't know what is. Like, if you can't wake up and see that, then...
Well, wasn't Reagan shot? Obviously,
I think
that's
right. Yeah, Reagan was, yeah.
Yeah, crazy photo.
But Reagan
him
was
with the fist up in the flag behind him.
Yeah.
Crazy.
When he put the fist up, bro, I was like, that's my guy. And I've already been so deep in, because Jamila stops me. I'll be up till 3 a.m. down rabbit holes, like trying to figure this shit out and like trying to gain evidence. I have clients, dude, who I love, like, that are extremely far left people, and they talk about it. They talk about like Trump this, Trump that, and I just shut the fuck up because I don't want to lose friends over my beliefs. And there's certain people you can't convince otherwise. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I love these people enough to not argue with them about it or not try to convert them. And I'm just hoping that through this process, they'll see, oh shit, maybe my party is corrupt. Maybe they do rig elections. Maybe they do. I mean, dude, Democrats were the KKK. They funded the KKK. Like, people don't realize that. Like, that's where the KKK came from, was the Democratic Party. And conservative values are what this country was built on, and it's what's kept this country safe. The 2-parent home, nuclear family, working hard, you know, buying a home, being able to afford buying a home, you know what I'm saying? Raising your kids, being able to trust your neighbor, you know, like that kind of stuff, like, why wouldn't you want that? Not have to be afraid to send your kids to school because there might be a drag queen reading them a storybook and they might pull the kid behind the school and freaking molest. You know what I mean? Like, that type of shit, bro. Like, I want my kids to be safe, and I want to be able to trust my neighbors and trust my government. You know, I want a government I can depend on, because look, our economy has never been better. When Trump was in office, our economy had never been better. Now it's in our fourth negative quarter. We're literally worse off than we were in the Great Depression. Like, if you do the statistics and compare the numbers, we are in a worse thing than the recession, Great Depression. Like, at least Trump gave us some checks. He gave us the PPP loans. You know what I mean? Like, and that's still taxpayers' dollars. We got to pay, or I didn't have to pay mine back because you can do a loan forgiveness. But it's crazy that we're still funding wars. There was no new wars when Trump was in office. None. He pulled everybody out of Afghanistan gracefully. You know, and dude, during the debate, when Biden said that no service people died, 13 officers died when he pulled them out, and they left everything over there, bro. All the military equipment. If we were so concerned about them having weapons, but we left all billions of dollars in weaponry over there, that's insane, bro.
How about all the money that we're giving to Iran?
Yeah.
Still,
yeah,
that they released.
Yeah. Iran, Israel, Ukraine, and yeah,
how many people have died in Ukraine? We have wiped out Russian and Ukrainians. Just wiped out an entire
We gotta leave
generation
Russia
of men.
alone, bro. If they have to, dude, if they don't, like, what was it, 1968 with the moon, the competition to go to the moon, they faked the video for the moon landing so that they thought that we went to the moon first or whatever. And then they say we actually went after that or whatever, but I don't know. I don't believe it.
You don't think we went to the moon?
No, bro. Well, they're saying that we don't have the technology now to go, but we already went when we had less technology. That makes no sense. That's the most backwards, and dude, I'm not a flat earther, but
Let's just make that distinction.
I'm starting to believe the more I talk to my flat earther friends, I'm like, that makes sense. Like this, why can't we go to Antarctica? Like, what are they trying to hide from us? Like when a plane travels from New York to Japan, they go like this and then go like this. They make like a U shape. And if you flatten the world out, it's actually straight across. Like when I saw that type of shit, I was like, damn. And looking at like flight logs and shit, it doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't just fly straight to a place instead of going like 100 miles out of the way and then going the other way. Like there's some things that people have shown me. My first time was actually in rehab. My roommate Koo, he was the RA, the resident advisor before me. He had a whole book on it, and I'm reading this book because he's like, tell me he's flat earther, and I'm like, bro, you're tripping. Because everything you learn in school, you believe. You know what I mean? You take it as, God's whatever. And so I start reading this book, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, so that's when I first started learning about it. And I don't know enough to say I believe in flat earth, but it makes sense because NASA is one of the most funded government. Actually, it's a private entity. And it's all funded by taxpayers' dollars. And if they are trying to hide the fact that we've never been to space, they're using that money for something. Like, what are they using it for? And if it's all about money, countries or businesses, then what are they using the money for? Like, are they experimenting on us? Like, are they, is it human trafficking? Like, what is it? You know what I mean? But I'll lose sleep if I get too far into that.
That's the challenge, is that there's so much bullshit out there that has been propagandized by the government that it's too easy to almost slip past reality and go too far. Right? When you start thinking, okay, who really shot JFK?
Well, have you seen the declassified CIA documents? It was 100% CIA op.
Well, they still have some documents that they won't release.
Yeah, Trump says he's going to release them. I hope he does. And I hope he releases the Epstein stuff. I mean, they released the flight logs. Yeah,
but you look at that, then you look at what got us into the Vietnam War. There are all these things. It's like, okay, the government lies repeatedly and fluently.
Iraq, Iran, all those wars.
All lies.
Yeah.
And then you start applying that to other things. COVID. It's like, okay, well, it's just, you can get on a very slippery surface with reality. You start questioning things that maybe don't need to be questioned, but they've lied about so many other things.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's what they want. I think they want.
They definitely want to discredit conspiracy theories.
Yeah, they want you to look like you're crazy. So that anything he's like, look at Alex Jones, bro. He's called some things. He's like predicted things.
Called 9/11.
Yeah.
Which
the Bohemian Grove was crazy. Like, why didn't that get more recognition? And they're still doing
Epstein?
Yeah, Epstein
was trafficking children to nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
What? That's the hill you're gonna die on? Trafficking kids to nobody.
Yeah.
Well, we got Ghislaine, so
yeah.
Epstein just happened to off himself when all of the security footage was down.
You can't kill yourself in a jail cell. You can't.
Well, the way he broke his neck, the fact that it's not indicative of a suicide.
Yeah, they went in there and fucking killed him.
Oh yeah.
If that was even him. I saw some pictures that like showed his nose, like the ridge of his nose, and like a picture of him smiling, and then a picture of the autopsy photo, and like it was a different nose. It was like not his.
See, so all that real, but then you have people that think Tupac's still alive.
Yeah. Have you seen that guy Aki? Aki the MC?
No.
Bro, he looks like Tupac. He moves like Tupac. Raps like Tupac. Like there's
How crazy would that be if Tupac was actually still alive?
It would be a trip.
And he was just the longest troll
I hope he is,
ever.
man. I don't think he's a troll. I think he saw what the industry was and didn't want fame anymore. If he's still alive. Didn't want fame anymore. Didn't want to be in fucking Hollywood with all the weird ass child molesters and was like, I'm out. I'm gonna give me plastic surgery. I'll go fucking. But there's this dude called like Aki the MC or something like that. And he's got like dreadlocks, long ass dreadlocks. But when you look at him, he could be like Tupac's brother, his uncle or something like that. Like just facial features wise. And even the way he talks, But when you look at side-by-side interviews of like Tupac and interviews with him, like their mannerisms, their body language, when they're on stage doing the shows, like certain movements he makes are just like they'll put them next to each other and it's like the same exact movements of Tupac. And then they show like plastic surgeries and he has like this, there's like a wrinkle right here you can get from like getting like facelifts or something like that. And he has that. Brother Aki the MC has that. And then like he also has a scar right here. And people with scars right here usually had no surgery. So there's like a lot of shit. And it's like, bro, could it be? Like, I don't know. Like, why not? You know? I'm sure, dude, there's got to be spies, CIA guys, or like who are double agents who like wanted to retire and got plastic surgery and moved to a fucking island somewhere in Bermuda or whatever. You know, they have the technology. Why not? You know? Because being famous sucks, bro. Like, honestly, like I'm not famous, but I'm like locally known. When I go to the grocery store, dog, it takes me like 2 hours because I'll see like 10 people and they want to talk about, oh, my kid's going to join, whatever. And then at the gym, I'll go to Health Sport. I'll drive all the way to the club in McKinleyville to go work out or hit the sauna just so I can get a workout in. Because at my gym, it's like when I'm there, everybody's like, you know what I mean? And I want to be social. Like most days I do work out there, but some days I just got to get the fuck out and go do my thing. You know what I mean? I can't imagine not being able to go to Target because 40 people are lined up for autographs or
Michael Jackson level where you can't even go anywhere.
You can't go anywhere. Yeah, that's wild. You know?
I wanted to ask, because we were talking about TRT, what happened with the whole time standard thing? What went down with that?
So my house got raided. They raided my house. They were super polite.
The cops were? Yeah,
they were cool. It was like Officer Couch. He's the only one I knew. And I think we partied together like in high school or something. Like over next to Ross Park. I think that's where I remember him from. But he's a fucking big dude. He's intimidating. Like if I was getting pulled over back in the day, I wouldn't run because he could probably run. But he's got like fucking 20 something or 20-inch arms or some shit. He's a big dude. But every day on our lunch break, we come home, put our son down for a nap, and we make love. That's what we do most days of the week. And or we just hang out or whatever. And she was putting Elam down in the room. I was in the living room waiting for her. And I hear a bang on the door and nobody comes to my house. Like, especially unannounced. Like, family will come by when they're visiting. Like, one of the trainers will like come by and pay percentage or what it may be. Like, I've had like Ross and his girlfriend over a couple of times and like my barber and his sons over and like my sister and her sons and like, but people don't just come over to my house. Like, not randomly. Not a lot of people know where I live. So I hear a bang on the door and I'm like, what the fuck? So I go to the door and Officer Couch is standing there and I open the door. I'm like, what's up, bro? And he's like, somebody smashed your wife's mirror off her car and the neighbors called. And I was like, oh shit. So I run outside and we got insurance. So I'm not like super stressed about it, but I'm like irritated. I go in the middle of the street and I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? And he's like, hey, don't freak out. And I'm like, what? And he's like, we have a warrant to search your house. Put your hands behind your back. And so I'm like, what? So I put my hands behind my back and like, they thought I was going to run, bro. Like, cause I look like I'm going to put up a fight, but I'm not that dude anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a fucking boxing coach, bro. I go to the gym every day. I train kids. I'm like, not that dude. And as he's put me in handcuffs, an EPD car comes from this way. A gunmetal gray, brand new Toyota Tacoma pulls up with an officer in it and a photographer driving. And then 2 EPD cars come behind those. And they all jump out, geared up, bulletproof vests, freaking everything, bro. It's DTF, Drug Task Force. And I'm like, well, I'm like tripping. I'm like really tripping because I'm like, I honestly do not know why they're at my house. You know what I mean? And I'm like, for what? I'm like, drugs? What kind of drugs? They're like testosterone. I'm like, what? I'm like, testosterone? Like, really? Like, I'm like baffled. And I know that it's like illegal. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't think like Drug Task Force is going to come to my house for it. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody I know that does it, you go on fucking Google, you Google and you can get it right to your fucking doorstep, bro. It's that simple. Like, it's not rocket science. And there's a million people out here that are on, bro. Like, I've been in the gym industry for going on 7 years and probably 20 to 50 people in each gym is fucking rocket fueling it. You know what I mean? and I've spoken really freely about it with people. I probably shouldn't have talked about it with so many people or whatever, but I'm not out there pushing steroids, especially at my gym. Like that's the other thing too, is like, they're like, oh, is it steroids at the gym? Or like when they started interrogating me. But so they put me in handcuffs. The detective comes up and I'm like, I want to see the warrant. So he shows me the warrant, and sure enough, they got pictures of my car, my house, the gym.
So they had been watching you.
They had been watching me. So they said they've been investigating me since the end of 2023. And this is in May when this happened. So it'd been a few months. They've been investigating me, I guess. And I'm like, bro, if there's anything, it's in the garage in my safe. And so they walk in first, and my wife's like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, they're searching the house, baby. They got a warrant. And she's like, motherfucker. And my son wakes up, and we walk back to the garage. And there's me, the detective, and like 2 or 3 other officers in the garage, and then a couple more in the house searching the house. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, bro, like, if you guys are gonna search my house, like, go ahead. You're not gonna find anything. There's a can of bear mace on her dresser because I can't have a gun because I'm a felon. You know what I mean? But it's for protection for the house for her when I'm not there. And there's like a BB gun in my drawer, in my top drawer that's not loaded. It just looks like a Beretta. And please don't tear my house up. Like, you can search whatever you want. Please don't destroy the house. And they were super respectful. They didn't tear it up too bad. So I opened the safe for them. Or they opened. I had my hands in handcuffs. They opened the safe. I gave them the code. And I have like $100,000 in prop money in the top shelf of my safe. And it was when I built the podcast studio. Like, I was going to do music videos. And like, I had this whole plan. I've got all kinds of prop shit. Like one of those money guns that like shoots. You know what I mean? Like, I had plans for the podcast. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And so they whip it out, and I'm like, look at it. It says motion picture uses only. And they're like, oh, okay. I thought they thought they had something right there. They thought I had counterfeit money or whatever. But you can buy it from propmoney.com or some shit. Anyway. So they're like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, we're joking around. Like, we're like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, whatever's in there is in that bag in the bottom. There's like an old Safeway or Winco bag. And it's just like a bunch of empty shit, bro. Every bottle in there was empty, except for 1/2 bottle of Deca that was expired in like 2019 or 2018 or some shit. And I was off. I hadn't been doing TRT for, I think, 6 months or something like that. But there was 3 bottles of estrogen or three bags of estrogen blockers that were full, but they're not illegal. It's like a hormone thing, whatever. And then a bunch of empty like syringes and shit, and like empty vials. And so once they realized that, like, they searched the whole house, and they're like, you know, who's the guy?
This is all we got?
Yeah, they're like, who? And he's like, he sends the other officers out, and he turns the body cam off, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance to like let me know who it is. And I'm like, bro, look at the bottles. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look where it's from. He's like, China. And I'm like, bro, you can go on Google and order anything you want. You know what I'm saying? There's a million websites, you know, like, it's not hard to get. And then he starts just rattling off names. He just goes down the list, starts saying, what about this person? What about this person? What about this? I'm like, bro, if you guys have been watching me since 2013, you know, I go to the gym. I go to the gas station, grab chewing gas. I'll go to Winco and get food. We might go to Fresh Freeze once a week to get burgers. And then I come home, dog. Like, I'm not out hanging out. I'm not making runs to people's houses. I'm not doing all this shit. You know, we go to church on Sundays. Like, we don't do anything. We don't hang out with anybody. You know what I mean? And he's like, I need a name. They just kept interrogating me. And then when they didn't get it from me, they brought me inside and then took my wife on the back porch and did the same thing, turned the body cam off and questioned her. Took my phone.
Is that legal for them to turn the body cam off?
That's why they didn't pick up the case. So, and I'm smart, bro. I've had, I want to say 7 or 8 felony charges. Every single one of them I beat down to a misdemeanor with they call it a wobbler, where you never take the first deal. And if you want to take it to trial, if you feel like you have enough, or they don't have enough evidence or lack of evidence, or witnesses won't show up, you can beat it. But you never take the first deal or the second one. You always take the third deal. So every single time I'd sit in jail when I get arrested for assault, DUI, possession of a concealed deadly weapon, manufacturing weapons charge. So for brass knuckles, when I was like 20 or 21, cocaine, I got pop of cocaine, 2 possession of stolen vehicles. The last possession of stolen vehicle, I took the felony because I didn't want to sit in jail. I was kicking heroin, and I was like, just let me out. You know what I mean? So I took the felony, got out, skipped court, didn't go to court, and that's when I went on the run for that 2 years. But so what was my point? Anyway, but I know this charge is a misdemeanor, you know, because it's a possession charge. And he tells me, he's like, it's basically going to look like a meth charge because it's just a possession of this category of drug, because they don't even have a category for testosterone. Bro, I bet they have never busted anybody in Humboldt County for steroids before, like literally. And I have my theories, and I'll get into a little bit of why I think this happened, why they targeted me specifically. So the detective even tells me, he says, they're going to book and release you. You'll be out in like 2 hours. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I tell my girl, I'm like, look, they're taking my phone, so I can't, you know what I mean? I can't communicate, whatever. I need you to tell my clients I'm not going to be at the gym tomorrow just in case. Call the bail bonds just in case, whatever. So I go to jail, and on the way there, the detective's hella cool, bro. They were all chill, you know what I'm saying? And I think part of it is like they know who I am now, especially when they busted my house and they realize like I'm not going to run. I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to make your investigation hard. He was like, yeah, I've been following you on Instagram, man. I like your raps are hella good. You could actually rap. Like, just joking with me. He was chill, man. And then we get to the jail and we're like talking about church. I'm like, what church you go to? He tells me what church he goes to. I tell him what church I go to, you know, and then they process me, and I ask him once I get in, because the sheriff's is separate from EPD when you get inside. I'm like, am I getting out? Like, is it a book and release? They're like, no, you're getting processed. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I could go in and sit, because it's 3 days that they're supposed to give you until you have court. But I think it was on like a Thursday it happened.
So you're going to be there for the weekend.
So I would have been there for the weekend. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't leave Jamila with my son and the business to run while I sit in jail. And I know they're going to post an article in Los Coast Outpost. So I need to be able to get out and tell my people, hey, this is what happened. Like, you know, and my partner and shit. And my partner's fighting a case right now too, which sucks. But that's a whole other story. But so I called the bail bonds. And the crazy thing is, bro, I'm sitting there next to a fentanyl addict. He's completely nodded off. A drunk guy right here. I don't know what the lady behind me was on, but she wouldn't sit still. She wouldn't sit down. They kept having her say, hey, you want to get put in a cell? Because you're in an open area. The women sit in the back, the men sit in the front. There's another guy back here nodding off. 3 of those people got booked and released for drugs. But I'm the only one who's getting booked in, or me and one other guy is the only guys that are actually getting booked in the facility, which is crazy to me, bro. And I'm like sober, like stone sober. So I call the bail bonds, figure out like what bail is going to cost. It was 25 grand bail, which is like you pay 10%. So I paid 2,500. Had my wife go to the bank, grab the money, go to the bail bonds. They got me out in like 2 hours. And then I think it was the next day I saw the article, and I was like, fuck, dude, like local gym owner, and they say allegedly. So it's not defamation if you say allegedly, right? So local gym owner allegedly importing, exporting steroids or testosterone from China, which is like importing, exporting. Like, where'd they get the exporting from, bro? You know what I mean? Like, where did they get that from? Because it makes it sound way worse than it really is.
It makes it sound like you're a kingpin.
Yeah,
you got
bro.
This whole op going.
Like, bro, we're on food stamps right now. Like, we're literally, like, the last few months, because the gym's, like, it's doing well for the gym. Like, the gym is paying its bills. But, like, we had to get on food stamps through this process because we couldn't even afford food because we were putting everything we made back into the gym, bro, for a few months now. And so just how it made it sound was crazy, bro. Like, made it sound like I was like, I wish my registration was paid on time last year. You know what I mean? Like, I wish all that shit, you know, but and then they said I admitted to sales in the article. And I'm like, I never admitted to anything. Like, yeah, I had it, but I never admitted to selling to anybody. You know what I mean? That's weird too. But so when you bail, the bail bonds set you a court date. So my court date was June 16th. And so I went to court, had my suit on and everything. She's with me. I think we got a babysitter. So yeah, it was just me and her. And I'm looking at the court docket and I'm not on the docket. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I called the bail. She's like, call the bail bonds. So I called them. I'm like, hey, I'm here right now. Because if you don't show up, you have to pay that 25 grand. So I'm like, I'm here right now. I'm not on the docket. So I go down to the county clerk's office because they tell me to. And they didn't pick up charges. So I go to the DA's office to make sure they didn't pick up charges. They're like, yeah, there's a lot of cases. We weren't able to get your case on the docket. They might not even pick up charges because it's so petty. and we'll send you a letter. And I'm like, do you have my address? And they're like, yeah. They looked it up and they had my old address in Arcata. And I'm like, so you guys would have sent me a letter to Arcata and I would have had to pay this 25 grand bail and I would have had a warrant. Like, so I gave them my address and I've been checking on it and they haven't picked up charges. And my theory is the reason why they haven't. Oh, and before any of this happened, before I went to court, it was like the next or Monday, I went in and asked for my discovery. So when you're arrested for a crime, they have the body cam footage, the officer's report, everything. And they're telling me at the DA's office that until I get arraigned, so my first court date, I can't see the discovery. So my theory is because they turned the body cams off, which is illegal. And I don't even know if they read me my rights, honestly. I don't remember. But it's embarrassing. Like, and all respect to the officers, but it has to be embarrassing to get a tip from somebody, get a warrant, however they got a warrant. And I have my theories, like I said, about how they got the warrant. And then do an investigation and then come up with a half a bottle of Deca, which is a misdemeanor. And nothing from there. Like no leads, no nothing. You know what I mean? It has to be embarrassing for them to go through that.
Do you think that they were looking at your background and thinking maybe something was there and that they could get you to flip on somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the people they asked me about, the first person they asked me about, we were like acquaintances. We weren't friends, but we had beef at one point. Like we weren't cool. And this is just like 5 years ago. Him and I like went back and forth, said we were going to fight in the ring at my gym. He didn't show up, whatever. You know what I'm saying? He said he showed up, but he never did. But they didn't know that, which is weird. Like they mentioned his name first and they didn't know we had problems. And when they started saying the names, I'm like, I'm so far removed from these circles of people. Like you obviously didn't do a thorough investigation. Whoever is giving them information is giving them the wrong information and just talking it up and making them think they have a case when they don't. And I honestly feel I'm upset at the person, but I feel worse for EPD and the officers for wasting so much time on something so petty and frivolous. Because it's got to be a pain in the ass to think you have this big bust and spend all this money and all this time and then not get anything out of it. You know what I mean? So they have a year the DA has a year to pick up the case, which sucks because I'm like on pause for a year or if they decide to do it. And the main thing about that I'm concerned about is I can lose my boxing license. Like I can lose my USA boxing license. I could probably appeal it if they did like take it, but that's something that like frustrates me a lot.
Well, it's your business.
Yeah. And like we have other coaches. We have one other coach that has their USA boxing certification right now. And we have another one that just turned 18. So he's getting his. So I could still train fighters. Like that's fine. And I could still take them down to the fights, but I won't be able to be in the corner with them, which sucks, you know? Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. I saw so it wasn't a time standard thing. It was a Lost Coast Outpost.
Yeah, Lost Coast first. And then I think other redheaded black belt picked it up. And I think maybe time standard. There was a few people that picked it up. But I stopped like the second day, I think it was the day after I got out, I looked at the Lost Coast Outpost one and the comments, bro. Like people that don't even know me. Like most of the people on there don't know me at all from Adam. And they were saying all kinds of crazy shit that I had like charges in Pennsylvania for like guns and like
everybody was jumping
I've done this. And I'm like, bro, none of that's true. Like, so this is the first time I'm saying this on a public platform. I made a fake account called Dick Nixon instead of Richard Nixon. And I went on there and clarified some things. I was like, you know, all those bottles are empty. There's only a half a bottle right there. Like I just said a few things and responded. And I shouldn't have done that. My wife was at work. I was like on my phone mad or on my computer.
When reading the
comments.
Fucking
fuming. I was like, bro, like at least say some real shit. Like say I got a DUI or say like, you know what I mean? Like, cause most of the shit I did was like from when I was 19 till I was like 28 or something like that, or 29. But for the last since I was 30, or so it's been 8 years because I'm 38. I just turned 38. So 8 years, I've been a good boy. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been really doing the right shit. You know what I mean? And so I went on there and like you can look up his charges. Easy. Anybody can go get a discovery. Once a court case has happened, you can go get people's body cam footage. You can get discoveries. You can get paperwork. You can get all that shit. It's at the courthouse. So I told him, I said, you can go look it up. It's whatever. And I said every single charge I ever had, just so it was clear. You know what I mean? I was like, he has this charge. He has this charge back in this year, whatever. And then I got off and I haven't been back on since, but people keep hitting me up like, hey, did you see this comment? I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. Like, I don't want to know. Cause there was one person on there who I'm positive is my ex-wife on a fake account. Cause it's just a username. You know what I mean? It's just, and I'm positive it's her because the Pennsylvania stuff, like them knowing that I lived in Pennsylvania or whatever is weird. Cause not a lot of people know that. But I never caught a charge. I beat a dude's ass in Pennsylvania once. My neighbor across the street was like, I don't know if he was fucking my wife, but she was cheating with the guy I was buying the house from. Eventually I found out. I caught her. But she got a ride from him. I told her not to. I was like, don't put my kid in his car. And I see him pull up at Dunkin' Donuts together and she's in the passenger seat and I fucking pulled him out of the car and beat the shit out of him. But I didn't get no charge for that. And that's my wife. Fuck him. He deserved it. You know what I mean? I warned him too. I said, bro, I don't want to see you around my wife. But it is what it is.
So all that stuff in the safe, was that all personal use?
Yeah. Bro, it was like enough to do a cycle.
Well,
all the empty
we're
bottles.
talking about testosterone. I feel like that context is important. It's not like you have, an ounce of some shit.
Fentanyl or
testosterone.
Testosterone. Yeah. The stuff they're giving little kids.
The stuff your body naturally produces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
And like TRT, I've been on TRT off and on for years. I'm not now because like fucking motherfuckers.
For a year. Damn.
But I can get it. I can get it through the doctor. There's a doctor in Colorado that'll legally send you your script. There's one in Crescent City too. I just have to go get my blood work done and go through the process because I want to get back on. I like the way I feel energy wise, the mental clarity.
Listen, at a certain age, everybody should probably.
I'm 38, bro. I'm almost 40. And I was a drug addict for like 8-9 years. And I have congestive heart failure. I have asthma. You know what I mean? And my body's been through a lot, bro. So it definitely helps me heal and grow. I wish I never got on early. I wish I would have waited till now. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I needed it back then. But when you're hanging around a bunch of dudes who are freaking 20 and they're massive and they look great, you're like, I want to be like you. You know
what do
I
you
mean?
make of all these guys currently, like Sam Sulek?
He's going to die.
It's pretty crazy seeing how big he is. And he's what, early 20s? Just shredded.
When you're 25 is when your body's fully developed in your mind. You should never do a steroid before then. You should wait till you're 35, 40, get your blood work done. And if you have low T, then get on TRT. But if you don't have low T, there's no point. Because you can damage your endocrine system, your thyroid, and anything beyond just testosterone is dangerous. There's too many side effects. Like I'm bald now, bro. Like I lost my hair. I had a high top that I loved. I had this perfectly, my barber would give me the perfect little high top and it's gone. You know what I mean? Now I got to tap my whole head, make up for that hairline. Yeah, man.
It's interesting how huge he has gotten. And other guys like that in the fitness community, especially.
I can't watch him, bro, because it makes me want to freaking do trend.
He seems like a nice guy. I mean, he's charismatic. His content is cool. But, I mean, that is definitely putting a message out there for other people that are thinking, oh, man, maybe I should hop on that.
And it's so easy to get. But this is the other thing, a caveat I want to make sure I tell people is that the downside of getting it online instead of through a doctor is your house can get raided. Right? We know that now. And also, you don't know what you're getting. Like I've gotten testosterone online or from a buddy or whatever back in the day, this is a long time ago, that freaking gave me a huge lump in my ass, like, because you have to inject it in your ass or your shoulders. Dude, it was so painful that I could barely even stand up and walk for like a week. And the one time I did it in my thigh, it was a similar kind. And what it is, and there's a I don't know if it's Vice. There's a show on YouTube that I watched and it shows a guy doing the whole process, like a black market testosterone producer person. And it's a powder, and they derive it from like yams or something like that. I think you can do it from other stuff too, but it's like a white powder. They mix it with alcohol and oil, and they put it in a microwave for like 30 minutes, and it cooks the oil, or cooks the testosterone into the oil, and it cooks all the alcohol off. And then they just put it in vials and crimp them and freaking send it off.
Backyard chemistry.
So if that testosterone or the alcohol isn't fully dissolved, the alcohol burns and it can lump up your butt, and also like you don't know if it's mixed correctly. So you might be getting a vial that like has way too much test in it. So it might be more than it says it is on the bottle or whatever. But when you get it through this place, it's called revivemed.com or .co. I'll have to look it up just for the fans. But oh shit, I have a client.
Oh shit, we can get out of here, man. We've done some time.
Okay. It's all good.
Is it 1 o'clock?
It's 2, bro.
It's 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
No, really?
It is.
Oh shit. Yes. Yeah.
Good times.
Let's wrap this shit. Good times podcast,
Yeah.
man.
Go to revivemed.co. You'll need a referral. You guys can hit me up in the DM and I'll give you a referral, because you have to have a referral person, and they'll send you a referral for blood work. Go to your doctor, get your blood work done, send it back to Revive Med, and they'll send you a prescription for this shit every month. If your levels are low, like I said, don't get on it if they're not, Yeah. Good shit.
Well, thanks for doing this, man.
Hell
I
yeah.
had a great time talking with you.
Yeah, it was fun, Nick.
We'll
Yeah.
bring you back in here.
Hell yeah, bro.
Do you want to plug where people can find you, the gym, all your stuff?
Find me on Lost Coast Outpost, local gym owner. No.
Don't read the comments.
Yeah. Where our gym is located on 1725 Tomlinson Street, Eureka, California, behind Tres Chiles Picosos Mexican restaurant next to the mall. On Instagram at Coach Tyler J. Parr or at Bodyworks Alpha Annex. Yeah, man, we're 24 hours, $20 a month for the basic membership, which just gives you 24/7 access to the gym, gives you a free women's class if you're a woman and a dance class. And then the boxing membership is $40 a month, and it gives you access to all our boxing classes, all our coaches, sparrings Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. boxing classes, 6 p.m. Mondays, 6 p.m. Friday, and 5:30 p.m. Wednesdays.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man.
Nick. Yeah.